your mind.
The good doctor is in the house. The house. The house. The good doctor. The good doctor.
Open your mind.
In the house. The house. The house. The good doctor in the house. The house. The house. The house.
Open your mind.
And peace, folk. Welcome back to another edition of the Proper Thought Series right here on the old T.P.O.T YouTube page. I'm your host, X, of course, but you knew that already. That's why your black asses are here. Tonight, we are bringing back the Ask the Doc series, and one of my favorite docs is here tonight, man. The one and only Dr. Phoenix is in the house, man. And we're going to be asking the question, how healthy are we? Yeah. So this is going to be good, man, because y'all know when the good doc comes through, man, you know, he throws down with a lot of good information. So it's going to be one of those nights. It's going to be one of those streams. But before we get started, y'all know I always start the show off with thanking you good folks for your likes, your shares, your views, your subs, and of course, your hard earned pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, and 50-cent pieces. Because I realize you don't have to do it, man. You have to show up to these goddamn streams. You don't have to share them. You don't have to like them. You don't have to sub to this channel. And you definitely don't have to drop your hard earned coins on this platform. But you good folks choose to do so, man. Week after week, night after night, man, you are here. You could spend your night any goddamn where, and you are here. And I want you to know, man, I don't take you lightly, man. I never have, and I never will. You got my word on that. I'm humbled. I'm honored. I'm appreciative, man. I'm thankful. I'm grateful for all you good folks, man. You know, the good folks that hang out here and the good folks that hang out up in here. All right. All right. So I thank you. So, like I said, tonight, man, the good doctor will be in the house, man. I got a lot of respect for Doc Phoenix, man. He's like my go-to guy. Yeah, man. He's my go-to guy, man, when it comes to this stuff, man, because y'all know when this pandemic first broke out, boy, the first person I had on the show was Doc Phoenix. Like, Doc, man, what should I do? Should I take the shot or not? You know, that kind of thing. So it's always a good show. I guess the doc will be here momentarily. So in the meantime, before the good doc gets here, I might as well hit y'all in the head with some of T.P.O.T's programming notes. Yeah, because we doing another show tomorrow night, and tomorrow night is it's going to be sort of like tonight, but tomorrow night is a what about. And y'all know the what about series is, we tell some of the secrets of black folk. Yeah, we tell some of the black folk secrets. And yeah, tomorrow we'll be asking the question, what about the health of the youth? Yeah, man, and you'll be surprised at some of the stuff I dug up, man, about and you'll probably hear some of it tonight. But you good folks, man, will be surprised, man. Some of the stuff I dug up about, thanks to the good Dr. Phoenix, he put me onto it, man. That a lot of us, man, when it comes to bringing the kids to the doctor and whatnot, man, we slipping, man. We slipping, man. We sleep at the wheel when it comes to taking these little tykes to the doctor. So we will be discussing that on the tomorrow. All right. All right. So I see the guest of honor is here. Let me bring him up. The good doctor, Doc Phoenix, is in the house. What's good with it, Doc Phoenix?
Good evening, Xavier. How are you doing? You can hear me loud and clear, right?
Yeah, man, I can hear you great, man. I've been waiting for this, man, all week. I know you're going to scare the hell out of a lot of folks, including myself, but I'm ready for it. Because I wanted to ask the question tonight, we as a people, how healthy are we? Are we as black? Oh, and before we get started, man, how was your holidays, man? How was everything, man?
It went pretty well, actually. I'm still somewhat on a vacation, a mini vacation, if you will. But otherwise, it's been going pretty well. Just, me and the wife, we just been chilling out, doing a little traveling. But yeah, nothing, nothing outside the ordinary. So.
Okay, all right. But let me ask you, Doc. I mean, are we a healthy people as black folk? Are we a healthy people? Are we somewhat healthy? Are we close to healthy?
I mean, generally speaking, no. Generally speaking, no. I mean, comparatively, if you're compared against your peers, against other groups within American society, and specifically compared against white people, Black Americans tend to have a tend to have a less tend to have a not as good quality of life as others, and certainly that's a large part as due to our overall health status. So in general, in my honest opinion, the answer is no. We're not as healthy, and specifically because this tends to be a male centered space. I would say in general, Black men tend to be the most unhealthiest group of men, second only to Native American men. And part of that is because one, Black men tend to die at ages more prematurely than other groups of men, from a number of chronic related illnesses and diseases. So, yeah. So I mean, and two, I mean, you also have you also have the health related aspect, the physiological aspect, but you also have the environmental aspect, whether it's from more preventable violence, gun violence. Again, for men between 18 and 35 years old, again, gun violence is a major contributor to premature death, certainly in the top three. But yeah, so I mean, we're Black men for the most part tend to get hit from all angles, if you will.
Yeah, because when I was coming up, 1,000 years ago, when I was a young man, um, back then the average age of a black man, the median average age of a black man was 21, 22. Um, I guess the violence had a lot to play, that came into play back then as well. Um, and it was scary to even think that, you know, you may not make it to 21. You may not make it to 22. Because when you hear them say, "Oh, the average life expectancy of a black man is 21, 22." So, I mean, and then now, okay, now we didn't even have, like the food scares, that we have now, because we eating all type of chemicals and preservatives and all this other kind of nonsense. Now there's that. Unhealthy eating habits, drug use, tobacco use, all this kind of stuff. And how the hell how can we get around this, Doc? How do we get better? I know the violence, that's something that I don't even know what to make of that. All right. I think the only answer to some of the violence is fathers getting in some of these homes, but that's another stream for another night. But how do we get around all the other stuff, man? I mean, how do we stop eating bad stuff? How do we stop putting bad liquids in our bodies? How do we, get our ass to the doctor more? How does this happen?
Well, I think I mean, there's no straight answer for this. I mean, this is a problem that's multifactorial. But on the other hand, um, it's more about not necessarily getting around it, but preventing it in the first place. And so typically where that would begin would be, truth be told, would be in utero. One being born into healthy families, to a healthy, healthy families, but specifically health in of itself is a cumulative action. The effects are cumulative. For example, you don't just wake up one day and you have diabetes, you don't wake up one day you have cancer, you don't wake up one day you have a stroke, so on and so forth. No, these are problems that occur that occur over a period of time. So it's a function of time. Again, for example, black men, for black men are overrepresented in the area of chronic kidney disease and kidney failure. Again, there has been a consistent trend over the last couple of decades where you're seeing younger and younger black men being diagnosed with kidney failure, even in their early 30s. Why? Chronic high blood pressure, diabetes. But more specifically, you're seeing it specifically related to high blood pressure. And so again, you're seeing a lot of men that have had chronic blood pressure throughout even their young adult years. So from their maybe even early late teens going into their 20s and even in their 30s. And so again, keep in mind that as you're young, your body compensates quite well. It's typically once you get past that 30-year-old mark where those little health gremlins come in, and you might start to see some problems. But in order for Black folks, one to want to really tackle this issue, you have to be really honest about it. I mean, even in this space, there's a huge apprehension to medical care. To
Yeah.
even medical professionals coming up and just not necessarily giving advice because they're not your medical provider, neither am I, but just providing you with general information about things without someone trying to fight you saying, well, I Googled this, this is right. Or I know this is right. I know somebody that did this is right. Again, health is not one dimensional, it's multidimensional, and it's a multifactorial problem. Again, most health problems for Black folks start from childhood and really from birth. I mean, it truly is something what we call cradle to the grave. And so
Yeah,
again,
because
go ahead.
a healthy lifestyle is taught, right? It's not just something that kind of falls out the sky. You don't, it doesn't come naturally, right? You have to be taught that, from a very young age, because as a kid, you don't really have control over what you ingest or eat.
No,
That's pretty much up to your parents, right?
these habits are instilled from birth throughout those developmental years, and again, if that foundation is laid, more often than not is carried into those adult years. So again, if you come from a family that eats well, that is active, you're going to carry that into your adult years, and most likely when you have children, you're going to teach them the same as well. And so again, these things, the genesis of all this, and this is where kind of where my problem is with a lot of black folks is that black folks don't want to be honest about where do the genesis of many of these problems begin, which is typically in the home. Like I said, and you and I talked about this on many occasions where we talked about
Yes.
obesity. And one of the things I always said about obesity is that obesity is not an individual problem; it's a generational problem. It is it is highly uncommon for me to meet an obese young adult, for me to not meet their parent or parents if both parents are around, and other family members that are also obese. So typically, especially this is especially true for black women. This is another group where just honesty will probably solve probably about 50 to 60% of the problem. Where just being, it's not uncommon for me if I met a young adult, or I even I met a child that was obese. The mother is obese. The sister, if they have siblings, they're most likely obese. Even the father may be obese, because I know black men in general like to talk about, well, our obesity rates are lower than black women. Yes, that's true. Black women on average do tend to have almost twice the obesity rate of black men, but black men as a whole are still hovering around 40%, which is still relatively high compared to other groups.
Yeah.
And so again, if you're dealing with if we're not being honest about, what's happening in homes, what's happening, the type of health habits that are taught, these are what we call social determinants of health. So is just the health habits, one being born into families where there's poverty. Poverty is a huge determining factor on whether or not people can live healthy, fulfilling lives. Whether your quality of living is good or is it bad. Again, we know that typically in many cities and many black neighborhoods that there's large swaths of poverty, highly impoverished race. You think of places like Detroit, for example. Detroit has one of the highest black childhood poverty rates in the country, only second to Columbus, Ohio.
Mm.
And on top of that, Detroit also tends to have one of the highest literacy rates in the country. So again, you're dealing with how all of these problems kind of dovetail onto each other. This is not just one issue of just dealing with health. You're dealing with financial issues. You're dealing with other social, cultural issues. Again, we know that typically those born to single family households tend to experience more adverse health effects than those who are not.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I mean, this is a problem that the genesis isn't necessarily one that's medical, because again, when the medical community gets involved with dealing, whether it's as a medical provider or whatever, and you're dealing with someone's health, we're getting involved typically on the back end.
Mm.
We're not involved on the front end of things unless we're dealing with a baby or something like that. But for the most part, for adults and relatively young children, school age children, and going forward, yeah, we're typically involved on the back end. So usually, in my experience, when I come across folks, it's typically someone has had something for a period of time, and they're finding a way to try to skirt medical care, or trying to go about trying to find a more of a homeopathic, holistic way of dealing with something. More often than not, when I tended to come across people, they're trying those things, and those things most likely have not worked for them.
Mm.
So, again, it's not just dealing with necessarily the health issue that's present at the moment. Is really dealing with sort of a generational approach to health. Again, for you, when you were a young man versus when I was a kid, you really didn't see black women who were obese. I remember when I was a kid, you saw women who were, very slim and, very, it wasn't what the definition of what Black men find attractive today.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
women you saw didn't fit the definition of what black men find attractive today. Those are very different type of women,
True.
or I should say, women were built very differently and looked very differently than nowadays. There's this big push now. Women don't want to go to the gym, so they go get Brazilian butt lift procedures. They go get liposuction, and again, you can get all of that, but you're still not dealing with the underlying issue here.
Yeah.
The underlying issue is that if you're still not adjusting, if your lifestyle doesn't match the tens of thousands of dollars you pay for these procedures, again, you're just gonna be someone who got liposuction and you still fat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
I know
so,
somebody who got the lap band surgery, right? And they lost quite a bit of weight, man. But
and
within
gained
a
it right
year,
back.
man, they looked worse
Mhm.
than they did before they had the lap
And
band
that's
thing. It's
common.
like,
And that's quite common. That's actually happens probably 50% of the time, 50 to 60% of the time. That's what you're seeing. People who even get the stomach reduction procedure, again, they will get it, but then initially they will lose quite a bit of weight, but then you see them a year or two later, they've gained it back and gained it back plus some.
yeah.
And that is not uncommon. In fact, for people who are morbidly obese, they go through it. Many of them don't even survive the procedure. Even if they do survive the procedure, many of them still die after the fact. Because
Yeah.
again, the health issue is cumulative. You can't. I don't care if you see a homeopathic provider, you see a medical doctor, a nurse practitioner, PA, or whatever. I don't care who you see. Again, ultimately, what happens is you didn't get fat. You didn't become obese overnight. Okay,
Yeah.
you're not. You didn't. It didn't take you. It didn't take you the 6 to 8 hours of you sleeping and you wake up and you weigh 500 pounds. No, this is a process that occurred over many years of your life. And so whatever physiological and biochemical imbalances that exist because of that are going to take a similar amount of time to correct itself.
Yeah.
So it's just like folks who stop smoking. Yeah, you stop smoking, but your risk for cancer doesn't immediately go up just because you immediately, go down because you stop smoking. No, your risk for cancer goes down over a similar period of time that you smoke, because it still takes time for your lungs to try to heal. And certainly in this current environment where we find ourselves, smoking of any kind, whether it's marijuana, recreational or legal, whatever, cigarette smoking, again, this is another major problem in Black. I mean, because again, in Black America, because there's this myth that if you smoke marijuana, you're somehow smoking something that's natural and healthy for you. No, it's the same effect as smoking a cigarette. Tobacco is natural.
Yeah.
You can go
Yeah.
to where you live. You live in South Carolina, and the
Yeah.
Carolinas are known for
Oh yeah.
tobacco.
Oh
So I
yeah.
mean,
Multiple tobacco fields. I could show you 30 of them down here.
yeah. So it's not. So again, it used to be years ago. Black folks used to be the ones in those tobacco fields. Now it's all the Latinos doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So again, this is something that there's a lot of misnomers. There are a number of folks who are out here that don't have the correct information and
Yeah.
understanding that health is something. It's practical, but it's also something very scientific on the other end of the scale. Because again, when you present with something like, I don't know, stage 2 or stage 3 cancer, for example, and typically the big difference between stage 2 versus stage 3, usually by stage 3, the cancer has began to metastasize to
Mm-hmm.
other parts of the body or wherever. So, keep in mind that, once you get to that point, you're potentially not just gonna, if you're someone in stage 3, you're not gonna find, oh well, cancer is just confined to, let's say, your prostate, for example. Most likely spread to your bones, can spread to your brain, which is a common area for cancer to spread when you have prostate cancer. Again, if you have a GI cancer, GI cancers are one of the ones are the big killers for Black men today. Certainly in the top 5. GI cancers, and right behind it is prostate cancer. And so, again, when we're looking at how all of these health ailments, all these things that can ail us in regards to our health. These these issues are multifactorial, but the genesis of these health problems certainly began in utero and ultimately in childhood. Again, health habits are taught by parents.
Yes.
Okay, it is very difficult to get somebody to get an adult to change their psychology. It is extremely difficult to get someone to change their health behaviors. We call it health behaviors. You can call it health psychology, but this is a major area of study and research for a lot of for psychologists and medical providers. Because again, trying to find the most convenient ways to get people to change their health habits. But again, some people have lived this way all of their lives in most cases, so it becomes extremely difficult to get people to change their health habits. So you get a lot of you get recalcitrant behavior, but you get a lot of behavior that, truth be told, is uh, black folks tend to experience a lot of behavior that's in many respects very detrimental to their own health, if you will.
Yeah, and well, shout out to my North Carolina brother MGTOW Flight with the $5 super chat. I appreciate that, brother MGTOW. You know, you drop coins on this platform, you get this. I appreciate you dropping your hard-earned coins on this platform. Appreciate that $5 super chat. And what's good, Lady Shonda? Says Proper Thought Series and Doc Phoenix. Good evening to you, brothers. Salute, greetings to all in the chat. What's good with the Lady Shonda?
Good evening, Shonda.
But it's all connected, right, Doc? Like, you know, you spoke about the poverty and the fatherlessness and, you know, that's in the hood and whatnot. Chances are, if you're living in poverty, you're probably not eating too well. You're probably eating bad food. You're eating bad portions. You're eating at bad times, right? So if you grow up and get out of that, you would actually be reversing, you know, whatever bad effects you had with your mama stuffing hot dogs and cereal and all kinds of crap down your throat, you know, for 18 years. So once you get out of mom house and you go to live on your own, you have to try to now reverse, you know, the pig ears she used to feed you and the pounds of butter and lard and all that kind of nonsense that she used to put on the food and, you know, the little Debbie cakes that she used to give you for breakfast and, you know, the deep fried Snickers she used to cook on Friday nights. You have to try to reverse all of that because when you step out of her house, you're already on the path to diabetes, hypertension, you know, high cholesterol. You know, you're already on your way there if you're not already there due to what mom has been feeding you. So how can you reverse that now that you're an adult? Well, I guess you can try to say, well, you know, I don't live with mom no more, so I'm gonna go ahead and, you know, I'm gonna stick to vegetables. I'm gonna stay away from the meat. I'm gonna, you know, stay away from all this crap. Don't eat no deep fried Snickers and deep fried Oreos like mom used to feed us 3 days out the week. So you're kind of in a quagmire at that point because, you know, she done already put you on a path to be very unhealthy, to be obese, to have all type of conditions and hypertension, high blood pressure, and all this kind of stuff. So can you even fix yourself after living, you know, like that? Because I say again, I mean, you're living, you know, you're living in poverty by no fault of your own. You're a kid, all right? So you're forced to eat pig ears and Snickers bars for dinner and all kinds of cereal and sugar and all kinds of nonsense that she's stuffing down your throat, hot dogs and shit. So is there a way you can reverse it? Are you already there when you get out of mom's house? Is your fate sealed when you move out of mom's house?
No, your fate isn't sealed, but again, this is about Black people being honest about where you came from, what you know versus what you don't know. And part of the problem with health is about, and well, heck, let me just tell you to this way. If I had $20 for every person that lied to me about what was going on with them, I'll be a very rich man right now.
Mm-hmm.
Most people lie to their medical providers, okay? And this is certainly true. This is certainly true of Black folks. Most Black folks do not tell you the truth. It usually is that you have to pull information out of folks, and that's part of the problem too. That's part of the problem is that when you're in, when you're a medical provider, you're providing medical services to folks. You're not just providing something that helps them get healthier, but oftentimes you're their you're their social worker, you're their counselor, because people will
Mm-hmm.
tell you they'll tell you everything that's going on in their life. They'll tell you a bit of, by the time they come to you for one appointment, you know their whole life story.
Yeah.
And again, that that can explain a few things that we see going on. So one, it explains that there isn't enough focus on providing adequate social services, adequate mental health services for folks. Again, this has been an area, that's sorely lacking, and it's not just something endemic of Black folks or anything like that. It's in general. But on the other hand, too, it's people just being truly honest about what's going on with them. I talked. You and I had this conversation before. But I talked about. When I was an undergrad, I was doing at the time I was a McNair scholar, and people found out I was doing research in these particular areas, and specifically in diabetes and diabetic ocular diseases. I would get Black folks come up to me all the time. Folks would want to pay me to come speak. Can you talk about diabetes? Can you talk about diabetic retinopathy and all these other things associated with diabetes? And again, when you get into these conversations, there has to be a level of honesty.
Yes.
And I shouldn't, and as for any, this is true for any medical provider, they shouldn't have to spend a time trying to pull information out of you. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this is something that Black folks do exclusively. No, this is something that everybody do. But again, we're talking to Black folks here. So, Black folks do have an issue with not being honest. People will lie.
Yeah.
People will lie. I cannot give you words will not do it justice to truly explain just how often people are not honest about their condition.
Well, it's
People
a
are not honest.
denial thing, right? I mean, we don't.
It's denial.
We're in.
Yes.
We're in denial about our health, man.
Yeah.
Just like we're in denial about a lot of aspects of our health, man. We're in denial in, the fact that a lot of us need therapy. We need to sit down and lay on a couch and talk to someone about what's going on. I think we're just in denial when it comes to medical stuff. All right. When it comes to medical stuff, whether it be, your body or your mind, I think a lot of us as Black folk, we are just in denial that there's something wrong. I guess because there's some stigma attached to something being wrong, right? Whether it be, our eating habits, our health, our blood pressure, our hearts, or whatever, there's a stigma attached to these things, is it not?
No, absolutely. And the comment you have posted up here from Ms. Shonda, I mean, she's absolutely correct. People don't tell you the full story, but then you look at these lab results and it tells you everything.
Yeah,
People say, well, I didn't know I had diabetes, but I'm looking at your glucose and it's like 400.
yeah, yeah.
Or if you do a hemoglobin A1C test and you're at like 8-9%. More often than not, I see people somewhere. I generally see people in the 9 to 10%.
Mm.
So I know you haven't been managing your diabetes, but you will tell me, well, I eat this and I do this and well, I'm looking at your A1C and it's telling me otherwise. Because
Mm-hmm.
A1C measures your blood, measures your ability to control your blood glucose over a period of about 3 months or so. Okay.
Yeah.
So when I'm sitting here looking at this, I'm saying, oh, okay, yeah, I know what's going on here. And again, and that's why, I'm saying this, not without any malice or anything like that, but I am saying that this is oftentimes why patients get labeled, a lot of black patients get labeled as non-compliant. This is true of patients in general. I've had plenty of folks, black or otherwise, that get labeled, non-compliant. And again, once you get that label within a healthcare system, you'll find that, yeah, depending on what kind of insurance you got, people really don't want to be bothered with it. Because if you got, and truth be told, you
Yeah,
got to
because
forgive me. You got to forgive me for what I'm about to say, but
go
I
ahead, Doc. Let it go.
typically find that the most non-compliant patients do tend to be your CMS patients, your Medicare, Medicaid patients. And again, they're the ones that always typically your no shows, because if you got insurance through your employer, oh, they go be on you, because
Yeah.
they calling me, they calling a bunch of other folks. They want to know the XYZ show up for their appointment, because they're paying for it and they want to know, they don't want to pay for it.
Yeah.
So folks, CMS doesn't really follow up like that. So basically, people show up, they don't show up, they call them, whatever, they're non-compliant, whatever. CMS is going to pay it anyway, because we're all taxpayers, so we all paying for CMS.
Yeah. This is true.
So, so I just want to, be clear about that, because I think a lot of times there's a lot of information that gets put out on social media and YouTube that, people, the medical community is looking to be parasitic and prey on black folks. No, that's not what's happening. Pretty much every black person I know that's medical providers, that are scientists, they do genuinely care about black folks. But again, trying to get black folks to be honest about the things that go on within Black America is pulling teeth, man. It really is.
Yeah.
It's like corralling a herd of cats. You really can't get people on the same page and get people to be honest about what's going on out here. And so again, black folks ultimately pay the price. But the part of that problem is that at the end of the day, black folks are the only ones paying that price.
Well, it's a thing of obviously, many of us, we don't care about ourselves, obviously. And you said when it's, the quote unquote Medicaid, Medicare people, they're probably the people in the worst of health, but they are the ones who are, ducking out of their doctor's appointments and checkups and, that kind of thing. And those are probably the people who need it the most. And, but all that stuff's connected, right? I mean, if you're a person that's, poor or living in the ghetto or whatever, you're living in the projects, you probably got more on your mind than your health. You're probably wondering where the next meal coming from, or how to keep the rats from running across the kitchen, or you got all this other stuff going on. So you're probably not thinking about your health all that much, because I mean, if you're a person that's living in deep poverty, you're an impoverished person. I'm pretty sure that that's probably not that great. You're probably got all kinds of shit going on. You're barely eating. You can barely make your way. You can barely make your bills. You can, you don't got a car, whatever, because I don't know too many impoverished people who own a car, so I mean, you don't have a car, so you got to use public transportation, and you got all these kids. So guess what? If you're poor, that means they are poor too. So not only do you have to worry about feeding, clothing, and housing yourself, you have to feed, clothe, and house all these little heads that you got running around in here. Make sure they got clothes. Make sure they got food. Make sure they got a roof over their head. Make sure they got sneakers on. So, I guess if you're a person who lives that way, it's probably very difficult to focus on your health, because you got all this other stuff, that encompasses your psyche. I would imagine it's got to be rough, especially when you have children. So it's probably mentally taxing. The first thing they probably need is probably some type of mental health treatment or some therapy of some sort, and that may be the thing to get them to kind of look at their health more, and maybe possibly not only change their eating habits and lifestyle, but change their life altogether. Right? So what do you think we're more in need of? Are we in more need of, some psychological tune-ups or some physical health tune-ups? What should we be getting more of at this point?
I mean, the obvious answer is psychological. Again, most of what happens to people in regards to their health or physiologically tends to be related to your psychology. So again, getting people, as I was saying earlier, about health behavior, you know, these things are all considered part of this broad banner of what we call social determinants of health. And so getting people to change their health behaviors is will pay far more dividends than just any medical treatment, anyone can ever provide or pay for that. So again, getting people to change the health, their general health psychology will pay far more dividends than anything else out here. But the problem is that again, when you're dealing with adults, even as teenagers, psychology, your psychology tends to be locked in by the time you're 6 years old.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of research, a lot of studies out there that essentially know that if a child is at this point, by the time they're 5 or 6, you can have they have a pretty good idea of ultimately what this child's life is going to be like.
Yeah.
Now, not to say that that's always set in stone, but however, changing people's psychology is very difficult. Again, you're talking about, you're trying to change, 6, 7, 10, 18 years of an upbringing. You're trying to change that. I mean, if you ever watched that one show, My 600 Pound Life,
Yeah.
the very,
Yeah.
that guy right there, there are so many bariatric surgeons that wouldn't even look at these folks, because these folks all have to sign waivers if you don't know, because they are high risk surgeries. These are folks that you couldn't even you'll be hard pressed to find an anesthesiologist that would be willing to put them under, because these folks are so high risk that they run the likelihood of them just dying in the procedure, high likelihood of them dying. So again, and the reason I bring that up, because that shows a good example of how do you change psychology. How do you have people who come on here who are morbidly obese, 600, 700, 800, 1,000 pounds in some cases. Okay, and you're trying to get them to change their psychology, and he go through this with them, with some of these folks, for years, and they never change. Some do, but many of them die. Many of them die in the process, because you're trying to reverse 20, 30 plus years of psychology. And I think that's part of the problem, where, I do agree with mental health care and all that stuff, but I guess for me, I'm kind of somewhat dubious on it, because again, if it is about how effective is it really, how effective is it? If you're spending years and years and years trying to get people to change their psychology, the way they think about health, the way they think about eating, the way they think about an active, healthy lifestyle. That is even more important. What do they think about their overall quality of health? Again, even for people that, because you see, even on that show, you see a lot of people who are morbidly obese, but many of them are young, really young. They're in their 20s. So for them, they can still, for some of them, for many of them, they can still move around. Not quite as agile as a person of a normal weight, but they can still move. They're still mobile enough, because they're young, and the body can compensate quite well when you're young. But again, as you get older, you lose the body, that ability for you to compensate, gradually decreases over time as we age. And so again, for a lot of these folks, even in their 20s, they don't change. They don't change. And even if they do change, it really takes it literally takes a come to Jesus moment for many of these people. I remember watching a show one time, and he had a case where the guy died, where the guy literally went flatline on the table. He literally died on the operating on the table, and they were able to revive him and bring him back and complete the surgery, but he was still doing all kinds of stuff, and it was only when he showed him that video of him being dead, and you see the you see the EKG monitor on with that long that sound that infamous sound you hear when someone is completely asystole. Yeah, it was only when he saw that then it really clicked in his mind he needed to change his life. And even then, for a lot of folks who are diagnosed with cancer, a lot of folks fight cancer and do quite well. But you know what happens? It comes back because a lot of folks still don't engage in those healthy lifestyles, don't engage in the healthy lifestyles to make sure it stays away. Now, not to say that's always going to be the case, but again, one of the areas of research is right now is figuring out how, for example, for Black men, is how to make sure, for Black men who are prostate cancer survivors, how to make sure that, maybe the development of metabolic syndrome may contribute to them having having the cancer coming back. And how do we prevent that? So metabolic syndrome, if for anyone's not familiar, it's a list of things that can contribute to overall general unhealthy well-being, unhealthy person. So diabetes, high blood pressure, stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
because
again, go ahead.
I mean, because even if now we got these people on the screen here to our right? You got 3 people. I believe it's a mother, a father, and a daughter. I believe, right? So pretty much the whole family is just obese. It's that's probably about 2,000 pounds of people right there, right? 2,000 pounds of people. How I don't see how the mind state is going to change just because they get on a table and have a surgery, get some fat removed. I think the mind state is going to remain because you may get the surgery, you may get some fat cut off, sucked out, whatever, but mentally, you are still unhealthy, right? Because there's something mentally unhealthy about you to get to looking the way some of these people look. All right. I mean that there's something going on upstairs, Doc, for you to get to looking, like this, for instance.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
All
typically,
right. There's something going on
yeah.
with you upstairs when you get to looking like this because you weren't born this damn big. You weren't born,
Well, that was
with
like an
your.
extreme case of edema right there that you just showed
I
the
mean,
with the Twinkie statement. That looked like a severe
yeah.
case of edema, an
I
extreme
mean that
case of edema, actually.
you got here, right? You got to this point. You got to 600, 700 pounds, right? And it probably started when you were young, right? You coming up, mom letting you eat 50 pounds of everything at every meal. And before you know it, you 600 pounds. Because like you said, a lot of these people, I know I used to watch this with my wife, man. And I had to stop watching it with her, man, because it was just, I couldn't watch it anymore.
Yeah, I
I
don't
just
watch
couldn't
it
take it
anymore,
anymore.
but it was actually my wife who watched it, and she told me to watch it. And I watched a few episodes with her, but I couldn't watch it anymore because again, these are extreme cases. I want to make something really clear. These are extreme cases. Again, these are things that when you're a medical student or whatever medical profession you're in, these are things they use as case studies to educate clinicians. And
I
so
mean,
again, because it's such an extreme case right here, what you're seeing, and again, this goes back to what I was saying earlier and what we've said in previous conversations, which is that obesity, for example, is a generational problem. Because those last couple of pictures you show, you've seen a whole family. So you have at least 2 to 3 generations of chronic morbid obesity going on. And that's typically how it presents.
And this isn't genetic, right, Doc? Like, you don't get like this genetically, right? You've eaten yourself into this. Or am I wrong here?
I mean, some people do have a predisposition to being able to gain more weight, more, quick, more rapidly than others. But however, these are learned behaviors. And typically in these situations, and what you're seeing is that you're seeing a history of really you're having family members that are enablers. You're having people around them that are enablers. And this is true of Black folks, whether you're morbidly obese or not. Just bad habits in general typically are reinforced through the environment. So whether it's parents or friends, family, whatever the case may be, bad habits are reinforced at some point in it. So you have enablers. And in all these stories you see of My 600-Pound Life, you typically see an enabler, and many of these folks experience, quite a bit of trauma growing up throughout their, young adult lives, and so on and so forth. But again, I would say, not to minimize their trauma, but I am saying that, again, that I think probably the saddest case I seen was probably one of the Black females, because she actually asked the guy she asked the surgeon, did he believe in God? And he said, what did God got to do with it? And I mean, this is kind of the level of
God didn't make this happen. That God ain't responsible for this shit. God damn it!
But this is the kind of level of dissonance that occurs that just doesn't that isn't really addressed. But I say this to say that, again, this is one aspect. We're looking at morbid obesity here, and again, but because again, this tends to be programming that tends to be centered more towards Black men. I want to keep something in perspective here, which is that for Black men in general, and I'm just gonna be very honest here, I find that more Black men are more resistant to what's going on than even Black women. Being honest about it. A lot of guys think that
What do you mean, far as weight, or what do you mean, Doc?
The entire process of health, of thinking that it's just that simple. Well, you get on a diet, you eat well, you go to the gym, work out. No, plenty of Black men go to the gym, work out every day, and they're still unhealthy. Yeah. Most Black men, for example, I can give you in my time, I've had plenty of Black men who, for example, were blue collar workers. Many of them were injured on the job, which for anyone that's in any of these blue collar fields, for blue collar workers, job injury is one of the leading causes of disability. In America. And for a lot of men, many men get injured early in their careers. So in their 20s and 30s, you might get a workman comp. You might have a workman comp claim going on. And so again, in those situations, you might be forced to leave this particular industry, this particular career field forever, early in your life. But again, what happens with a lot of Black men in these fields, I think there's a tendency to say, well, these things happen because I didn't do X, Y, Z. No, these things happen because Black men tend to engage in very unhealthy lifestyles as a whole. And so whether this includes the type of professions you choose, the kinds of environments you have yourself in, again, these things all have bearing on your health overall. And I'm not, and this is not to bash any Black men that are in the blue collar fields, but I am saying that for those in those
don't rub it in, Doc. God damn
they tend to be the unhealthiest group of people out here. And that's for a variety of reasons. One, getting injured on the job. Two, you just typically have many blue collar men have bad diets, really bad diets.
We have bad habits. I mean,
bad habits, smoking.
Habits are bad, man.
Yeah, they're bad. And especially a lot of truck drivers out here. I have to say this: a lot of truck drivers out here. A lot of these guys, high blood pressure, they're diabetic. And here's the funny thing about the truck drivers: if you're diabetic, you have to get your vision you have to get your vision tested every year if you're diabetic and you're a truck driver. Otherwise they will suspend your license.
Yeah.
Because you have to show that you have to have a medical provider willing to say that, yeah, this person's safe on the road. So you have to go to somebody who do those DOT physical exams, who do the DOT
Yeah.
exams for truck drivers and stuff like that. Or you go to somebody who does the stuff for like OSHA or something like that. So again, there's a lot of things that go on there's a lot of things related to your health that this is all one big circle that oftentimes closes in on itself, that Black men don't really see as, okay, well, if I didn't do this, this affects this at some point. And
Yeah.
again, trying to get Black men to be just really honest, just truth be told, not trying to fight folks like myself, because I'm not in this I'm not in this to, get Black men, to hurt anyone or anything like this. No, this is something I've always done. I've been in the healthcare arena for a long time. And again, for me, it's always been something because I enjoy it. But two, I do like when I do get a chance to talk to Black men, and Black men are honest and not trying to fight me all the time or trying to find some way to try to prove me wrong because, well, I went on Google, I looked at this, well, I know this person, this is a common thing you hear. This is common. You hear this for well, I know this person that did this and this worked for them, but will it work for you? Because what worked for them may not necessarily work for you. Because oftentimes, yeah, you might have the same issue, but the way it progressed and the way it came about can be completely different. So, everyone's different in that respect. But I will say for Black men, for Black men, it is imperative that Black men start being honest with each other. Because here's something that I did want to mention tonight. Because there was something, I was talking with a gentleman a few days ago, and he was talking about um, Black men dying early. And part of the problem that Black men have not been honest about is the fact that Black men on average die 10 to 12 years earlier than other groups of men. So, for example, we've seen this, over the last year or two, we've seen a number of prominent Black men who have died in their early 50s, early to mid 50s. From things like stroke. Well, we knew about John Singleton, who died, was it earlier this year, I believe, he had a massive stroke. Again, that's not uncommon for Black men to be having life-changing, debilitating strokes at early ages. I know Black men have had strokes in their 20s. I got a friend I grew up with. He had a stroke at 30 years old.
Yeah. Friend of mine had a freaking heart attack, man, at 37.
Not uncommon. This is what you and I've had these conversations previously, and this is one of the things I try. This is what's happening to Black men. This is a trend that in the medical community we've been seeing this for years, for decades, where you're seeing issues that would normally pop up, health issues related to aging, popping up in perfectly viable young, should be perfectly viable young, healthy Black men. But we're seeing Black men having prostate cancer at 25, at 30, at 35, in their 30s. Black men developing GI cancers in their 20s. You need a kidney transplant by the time you're 31.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen a number of rappers over the years died from diabetes, died from what was it? The one rapper a few years ago, what was his name? Nate Dogg had a series of heart attack at 44 years old. They killed him.
I mean, it's just.
I mean, you think about some of the other, entertainers and a lot of your athletes out here. We just had the one athlete, what was his name? Brandon, I can't remember his name. He just died, but they believed he might have had a seizure in a shower and fell down in the shower and died. This was like a week ago, I believe. I can't remember the guy. I can't remember this he was a football player. I can't remember his name. But again, this is another area where black men aren't being honest about what's really going on out here, what's really going on with them. And so again, when these things don't just happen, okay? You don't just end up with diabetes. You don't end up having a stroke. We saw was Dr. Dre a few months ago had an aneurysm.
Yeah.
Again, most likely related to high blood pressure. So, we've seen a number of prominent black men, and I'm sure plenty of black men know black men in their 40s and 50s who have died from chronic diseases. And again, this is not uncommon. This is essentially kind of really the norm, to be truth be told. This has become progressively a far more serious problem than black men are willing to admit. And again, my role in all of this is that I try to really educate black men on this. I'm not telling you what to do. I don't provide you no medical advice. I'm just presenting the information, and I'm telling you this is what's going on. This is what the medical community has been observing for years now. That black men are having strokes in their 50s, meanwhile white men are having strokes in their 70s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's lifestyle and diet, obviously, right? Those are the two major factors that we got going on, right? Lifestyle, the crap that we eat, and the smoking of the weed and the cigarettes and the cigars too. I'm gonna leave those out. The drinking.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct, and that's the thing. I think we don't see, for black men, the what we think is healthy versus what isn't healthy. That perspective that concept has to change.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of in a way that a lot of black men look at women and they see women that, by all accounts, if I looked at her, I would say, this woman is, this woman is one pregnancy from being a high risk. She's one pregnancy away from being a high risk pregnancy, or this woman gets pregnant, she's probably gonna develop diabetes.
Yeah.
If she's pregnant, she gets pregnant, yeah, she might have to. She might have some. She might have some. She most likely is going to have some complications. But black men see women who obviously, because of their weight and maybe it might be proportioned in a certain way, they find that attractive. But in reality, it really isn't attractive. One is not attractive. Two is not healthy. So again, you have that reinforcement that goes on from from black men, from black women, and again, all of this feeds onto itself.
Yeah. Because why would you want a woman, right? You meet a woman and, 25 years down the road, she's a diabetic, she got to get a leg amputated, and she's, all this kind of stuff. Because I saw that growing up. I saw older women who, they had to get legs amputated and, they're in a wheelchair and they're taking 30 pills a day. And, I saw all of that kind of crap growing up. And you're right, Doc. I believe that we have kind of flipped the switch on what we think is healthy, right? We have flipped the switch. We believe that for some reason, if it looked good and it's round and it's shaped a particular way, we will go for it. We will be with it. We will, do whatever with it. And I mean, I think we got to get out of that. I mean, we're so caught up on this, She got a fat ass, she's thick, she's this, she's that. We're so caught up on that we're not even thinking about, especially, but I guess you don't have to think about it if you're not thinking long term, right? If you're just thinking with your penis, you're probably not caring. But, if you're thinking long term and you and her gonna get married and y'all gonna have kids and stuff like that, wouldn't it be nice for your wife to still be alive as your kids grow up? Wouldn't it be nice for you to freaking be alive, as your kids grow up? And I don't believe we think that way, because I knew I wasn't. All right. I'll speak for myself. I was not thinking that way. I've just been fortunate that I've made it to my damn 50s and not fell over with a heart attack or a stroke. Um, and I didn't really start trying to get healthy until I got older. I didn't start, eating more vegetables and, staying off of the heavy meat and just eating, baked fish. And, that shit started recently. I wasn't, coming up through the ranks. I wasn't, well, I can't say that. When I was younger, I didn't eat meat either because I was a Muslim. I didn't eat any meat, but once I got out of Islam, I mean, I was doing anything, eating chicken and hamburgers and steak and, eating whatever I thought tastes good. I would put it in my mouth. So now that I'm older, I understand it more and I see the benefits. I mean, I've lost a significant amount of weight. I've lost a significant amount of my gut. I have more energy. I feel different. I sleep better. And I look back and I'm like, damn, why wasn't I doing this shit like 20 years ago? Why wasn't I doing this shit when I was like 25? I mean, it might have extended my life. I mean, now I may fall over dead in the next 5 years, but if I'd have been living like this 20 years ago, who knows, man? I might have lived to 70 or 75 or, I've just been fortunate. I haven't had any real serious health problems. I did get a checkup not too long ago. So far, so good, y'all. I'm still in there. My numbers seem to be good. But like I said, I have dudes that I know, man, that I mean, one of my friends died, man, when he was like 39. Okay. He was like a year or two younger than me at the time. He died. I know a brother who had a damn a heart attack when he was in his late 30s. So I mean, it's not odd. I mean, and you're spot on, Doc, with this stuff, man. You're spot on. I told y'all Doc Phoenix was gonna scare y'all asses up here in here tonight. But shout out to brother Royston Gibbs, a devoted contributor to the T.P.O.T YouTube page. He says, Happy New Year. Same to you. Brother Royston, you get this. Uh-oh. A big coin drop on the platform. And also, speaking of coin drops, man, today I got 3 cash apps from you brothers today. I mean, I was looking at my phone. I was like, what the hell? I got 3 cash apps from brothers today, like hours before I even came on the freaking air. I'm not gonna say who you are because I guess you don't want people to know, or you would have did it online or when I was live. But 3 brothers hit me with cash apps this evening, man. And I just want to say, I appreciate y'all, man. I mean, I don't know what to say, man. Y'all brothers, y'all have me speechless sometimes. The way y'all support the platform and the channel and ultimately me. And I just want to let y'all know, man, I appreciate y'all. If y'all listening, I appreciate it, brothers. I really, really do. I meant to say it at the top of the show, but I forgot. But I appreciate you, good brothers, man, for and that happens pretty often where, days I'm not even on the air, man. I get a couple cash apps and it's like, salute because I watched the video, or, I appreciate your ex, or whatever the case may be, man. And I want y'all to know, man, that I don't take it lightly, brothers. I don't, man. I appreciate it, man. I absolutely positively appreciate you, good brothers, man. And, there's not too much more I can say. And I'll say again, the brothers who hit me with those cash apps, earlier today, y'all know who y'all are, man. And thank y'all. I appreciate y'all, brothers. But back to it. So if we as men, okay, let me back up, right? Like I said earlier, when you get out of mom's house, Doc, and mom's been feeding you pig ears and ho-hos and all kinds of foolishness she's been feeding you all these years. And you get out of mom's house and now you try to get healthy Obviously, you like I'm not eating the pig ears and the hot dogs and the deep fried Snickers bars no more. So on that path, trying to go that way, I'll ask again because if you've already had your body filled up with crap for the past 18, 19 years, is it even possible to clean your body up, so you don't have to worry about having a stroke or a heart attack or high blood pressure or hypertension or, I mean, is it even possible?
I mean, yes, it takes time, but the great thing about youth is that you bounce back relatively quickly. So what that means is that, in relative terms, is that an immediate change in your lifestyle will you will generally start to see uh uh changes in you physically
Hmm.
early. I mean, relatively quickly. So that's the benefit of being young and being youthful. So again, one of the things to keep in mind is that, which is why this is one of the reasons why I'm actually a huge proponent of black men going to college, because part of you changing that lifestyle means you have to get around other folks that are doing it.
Yes.
And so one of the
Yeah.
best places to find folks like that is obviously on the college campus. Why? People are athletes. Students are athletes. Students are active. They're you do what a college student does. Okay. There's all the other crazy stuff you do, but the other part of it too is that, you know, typically college students is, especially if you go into one of these major universities out here where, that tends to be the lifestyle.
Yeah.
You typically don't see a lot of obese college students. Now, typically, although
Not e-
people
not
might
even
not
at
like
the
me
H,
for what I'm about to say.
not even at the HBCUs.
I was just you were thinking the same thing I was thinking, but you said it, so I'm just gonna say this much: at your HBCUs, that's not typically the case. Specifically, your Spelmans out there. I will say that. I will leave it at that because I don't I
Mm,
don't want the pitchforks coming after me. But no, but if typically, you're better served by putting yourself into an environment where people are living that lifestyle that you want to be a part of. So, and this is why one reason why I am a big proponent. So it's not just typically a healthy lifestyle goes along with people who tend to be successful.
yeah.
So, so people who live healthy are often good students, often have pretty good careers, great careers. They're professionals or whatever they are. But the point is that typically healthy lifestyles go along with successful people.
Yeah.
Is
Well,
really, if you notice, do you really ever see a boardroom meeting and you see overweight people? You typically don't see that. Now,
yeah. I think
go
we
ahead.
underestimate that though, Doc. Like, we don't. We think it's all about you know where I'm going with this. We think it's because of food deserts and not an adequate supply of food at certain places, and the white folks got all the good food in their neighborhood, and this is the kind of the crazy stuff you hear a lot of times. The decent supermarkets are too far, and we because I don't believe in that crap, right? I don't believe just because you don't have a lot of money that you can't be a healthier person. I don't believe just because you don't have a car that you can't get to somewhere where there's healthier stuff to feed your children as opposed to feeding them out of some corner deli. I just don't believe that, man. I don't believe it. I
Well,
don't believe it.
well, I would say this much. While I do agree to an extent that, yeah, food deserts are a real thing, I do agree to an extent that that is true. But I also agree with, but I also agree what you were just stating about, irrespective of those things being present or not being present, you can still you can still have healthy habits that you can teach the children. So again, So one of the key things that happens with children, and again, healthy eating very much does correlate to smarter children, believe it or
Yes.
not.
Yes.
A lot of
I
black
agree.
folks don't want to admit this, but it very much does. So again, so one to see a lot of black folks say, well, I can't get they don't eat vegetables, they don't like vegetables because the problem is they were never taught to eat vegetables. They were never acclimated to it. So if you go on YouTube and they've had this whole movement for years where people feed babies healthy food. So they have like a mixer or something like that, and they will mix up like fruits and vegetables together and feed it as baby food instead of giving babies some of the food out of the jars or whatever. But on the other hand, you can go on Instagram or social media in general, and you can see all kinds of photos of black folks feeding their kids table food adults
Yeah.
would eat, feeding this to
Yeah.
babies. But if you go look at some of these other groups of people, what do they feed their children? They're feeding their children stuff like a mixture of greens and vegetables and fruits and stuff like that is blended together, and you feed it to them again. But if you do this on a regular, you're developing a habit. So as they get older, they typically will not be resistant to eating vegetables. So these are things that start from a baby. They start when they're babies going into childhood and ultimately into their adolescent and adult years.
Yeah. Because you
And,
got to
and so
stop. You got to shape their palate, kind of, sort of, right? You got to kind of shape that palate. I mean, if you just feeding them
children
freaking
learn by not what you say, but what you do.
yes,
I don't
yes,
care what any I don't care what any black person gets on a panel or gets on social media to tell you. Children can care less about what you say. Children always follow your example.
yeah,
So if they see you eating a bucket of fried chicken, what do you think they're gonna eat?
mm,
If they see you eating whatever, they're not gonna do that. But if you're the parent and you're eating healthy, the children are gonna ultimately eat healthy because why? Because naturally they're going to pick that up from you, but also too if you're introducing this to them as a baby, as infants, they will go into their childhood eating this, and this is how you build onto these habits, to these healthy habits, and they carry this into their childhood. Getting your kids involved in sports. Now, I'm not a big proponent of pushing your black, especially black boys into professional sports, but I am a proponent of having children being active. And so, yeah, getting them involved with sports at a very young age. Why? So they can understand what a healthy lifestyle is. So
yeah,
they can be involved in being healthy and active and stuff like that. And this is certainly true with your boys because, again, boys are energetic at young ages. And again, a lot of excess energy to burn it off. This is oftentimes why you see so many children, they're hyperactive because, again, children are naturally just high energy levels, but then you combine that with a diet high in processed foods, a lot of carbohydrates, stuff like that. Yeah, all of that stuff gets converted into sugars and just put them in overdrive. And so again, these are habits that are initially taught and built upon. So everything builds upon each other, and that's sort of the cradle to the grave attitude that black folks should have when you're approaching a healthy lifestyle. And certainly, where does it begin? Obviously, it begins, truth be told, in utero. So again, mother's pregnant, she should be eating healthy, and a
yeah,
lot of that is a function of finance. So I don't say this with any sort of glee or anything, but I am saying that poor people do tend to have more babies, more
hmm,
successful, more affluent people tend to have less children. And the children they do have tend to be successful on the whole because they've established a certain lifestyle that they pass on to their child. And again, and I'm not saying necessarily if you're poor, you're going to be horrible parents or anything like that. I am saying that more often than not, poverty leads to bad lifestyles and often and bad lifestyle choices.
Yeah, poverty have you feeding the kids hot Cheetos and BS. But what about what brother Lemon Pepper Wings is saying? He says, but
Is
then
this even a
again,
real person?
yeah, he's a real person. Yeah, he's a real
Okay.
person. He's been here before. He said, but then again, I think it's genetics and exercise because he said he grew up in the hood and he was always fit just eating hot Cheetos and Kool-Aid.
But that goes back
So
to what I said before. Again, if you're young, the body compensates well. Yes, you got men who are just naturally thin, but I promise you, if he grew up just eating that, I'm pretty sure no one's never taken his blood pressure.
mm,
I'm
mm,
sure no one's never really just checked his blood glucose level. I'm sure if I took his blood pressure, it's not normal. It's elevated.
yeah, because you can be in shape and chiseled, right? And look chiseled and everything on the outside and still have high blood pressure, diabetic,
And
hypertension, all that can be going on, right?
yeah, no, extremely common. Extremely
Mm,
common. I can show you all the black men that I met that were diabetics that were like that weighed less than 160 pounds.
mm,
They were 160 pounds soaking wet. I came across plenty of black men that had heart attacks they were 6 feet tall, 170 pounds, thin, had a heart attack. 5'11", 150, 160 pounds, got diabetes, got high blood pressure. Again, that's just again that right there. That is youth. That is the power of youth. I don't think people black folks don't understand just how powerful being young is, how quickly you bounce back. This is why do you think the military want young people? Because we can run you into the ground and damn near break you, and you will bounce back and be fine the next day.
yeah.
You can go 24, 36, 48 hours without sleep, get a couple hours, get a few hours of sleep, and you're right back at it. You can do that. That's the power of youth. That's how quickly the body can rebound. This is why you see, like I was saying earlier, with my 600-pound life, where you see a lot of folks that are, on there that are 600, 700 plus pounds. They're young, they're in their 20s, but the reason they ain't dropped dead yet is because they're young.
Yeah.
You 600, 700 pounds at 40 years old. You just one breath away from a heart attack.
Oh yeah, yeah. You're literally got a foot in the grave and the other
Yeah,
foot on like a banana peel.
yeah,
Like,
but at 24, 25 years old, yeah, no, I mean 20 years old, no, you're gonna bounce. Your body can compensate well. Is once you hit that threshold, once you get about 30, yeah, then the body doesn't compensate quite as well, and certainly as go on into your 40s and beyond, it becomes even more of an issue. So again, the power of youth is that's the thing. Like, yeah, you can go through your childhood not eating well, not making those right choices. You can go into your adolescent years and ultimately those early adult college age years, and you can completely turn that around in that period.
mm,
Yeah, you can.
well,
I mean, again, something like we think of something like cancer. Cancer didn't just appear in the body. It grows over a period of years. It starts as the single cell, and then it grows large enough to where it can become detected.
mm,
So again, this is something that doesn't. This is not something that happens, in a vacuum. This is something that happens. Again, all health issues are a function of time. So,
yeah,
in other words, it doesn't just appear the day you woke up. No, it appeared over the course of your life. It occurred over the course of your life. Okay. And this is certainly true. For example, many diabetics. Do you realize one of the easiest ways for diabetics to get their blood sugar levels under control? Get rid of all the damn soft drinks. I,
yeah.
I can't tell you the number of diabetics I saw the moment they stopped drinking soda, the juices, all the store bought juices. They got tons of sugar.
Yeah, that should kill you.
You immediately. I mean, they immediately saw a change in their numbers. So
Yeah.
again, there are certain things you do that will have an immediate effect, but then again, That's just one part of their process. So now you remove the soft drinks from your diet. Now you start to think about, okay, how can I better manage my diet? Eating healthier. So what do you need to eat healthier? For example, one of the cool things about been having done my undergrad in nursing and biochemistry was that in nursing you actually have to take nutrition courses. So you don't typically take that when you're in medical school. And so again, one of the things you learn is what's something you can consume, or an ingredient within a vegetable or certain food items that you consume that can help you better manage blood sugar. So fiber, eating a lot of foods with fiber actually really helps to manage blood sugar. So again, these are things that, again, this is not medical advice. This is just giving you general information, because at the end of the day, these things are all out there. All this information is out there. A lot of this stuff is all Googleable. You can Google all of this. But the point is that for the most part, you can change your trajectory if you catch it early enough. The question is, do you? And that's the fundamental problem with black men, is that most black men, by the time most black men realize it's a damn problem, in many respects, it's too late. You're already early stage kidney failure. You already have cancer. You're already on the verge of having a heart attack. The damage is already done.
Yeah.
And so that's the fundamental.
That statement, it's never too late, isn't true, because there is a point when it's too late, right? You can get to that point where it's too late to turn it around, right?
There is a point of no return. There is a point of no return. And oftentimes, keep in mind, especially for folks who are diabetics, I mean, if you've had diabetes for a long time, there are things that you mandatorily have to get. Like, you should be getting eye exams at least once a year at a minimum. I would suggest at least twice or every 6 months. Because again, I'm sure you probably know folks, but folks who might have went blind from diabetic retinopathy. The leading cause of working age adult blindness is diabetic retinopathy. So all of those who are working age, the leading cause of blindness is diabetic retinopathy. And so again, you think about something like this. For some folks, you can get tested, you can find out you might be in an early stage of diabetic retinopathy, be blind the next week. Completely blind.
Yeah.
For some folks, they might realize, they might get tested, might find it. It might just stay where it's at. It all depends on the person. In that respect, it does kind of depends quite a bit on, their particular genetics and whatever. But for the most part, for a lot of folks, for a lot of black men, by the time these things become an issue you really want to address, it is oftentimes too late.
Yeah.
So again, this is true for, not just black men, but for black people in general. But because for black men, black men are not typically honest about the fact that, yes, on average, we die a lot sooner than everyone else.
Yeah. That's because we live the most unhealthy lives, right? We live the most unhealthy lives.
This is accounting for socioeconomic status. So as we've seen, some of the most prominent, some of the black folks that have died over the past year or two were wealthy black men, were celebrities.
Yeah, rich.
These were men who had all of the resources ever to live the kind of lives that are fulfilling and healthy and make those proper choices, but yet they died from things that were 100% preventable.
Yeah.
And in their 50s.
Yeah.
And again, that and the reason why the 50s is so important for black men, but men in general, because the period between your late 40s and your 50s, those are your highest earning years as a man.
Mm-hmm.
Those are your most productive years as a male. Is in that mid late 40s into your 50s. That's when men tend to make the bulk of their income. Mm-hmm. And so if that's being cut short, so no matter how much you think you're an investment guru, you're making tons of money from crypto or whatever. No, it means nothing if you're dead at 51.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you got all this money and all this crap, and the next thing you know, you're dead. I mean, it was all for nothing. It was all for nothing. Brother, lemon pepper wings. If you keep writing in all caps, that bot is going to keep blocking you, brother. It doesn't like all caps, man. You write in all caps, that bot is just going to keep timing you out, and eventually, if it keeps timing you out, it does tire of people. It'll just eventually block you. So you probably don't want to continue to keep writing the caps, brother, because that bot's going to keep timing you out if you keep doing that. But he's right though. Uh, health is wealth. I mean, because like you said, I mean, what difference does it make if you make $100 million between the ages of 45 and 50, and 2 days after your 51st birthday, you fall over and die from a heart attack? It's like, now all the money's going to your kids. They're just going to squander your shit up and waste all your money and your investments in your property. You don't even get to enjoy it in your golden years, because that's what it's all about, right? I mean, because that's what I think about. I think about, what I'm going to do. I'm always on top of my investments and in properties and what I do. And because I want to retire from working in the next 5 to 6 years. And I mean, once I retire, I want to just start doing all the things I want to do. And it would be tough. It would be tough to do it if, I have to get a leg amputated or I'm dead. It'd definitely be tough to do it if I'm dead. So, I mean, I've tried to, take the steps, man, to be a lot more healthier, cut back on things. I go to the doctor. He tell me, I should go easy on the cigars. That's where me and him split opinions. All the other shit he say to do now, I'm with him there. I'm with him there because, I don't drink soda. Um, I do eat I eat a lot of fish. I do eat some big chicken from time to time. I don't eat a lot of meat. Only meat I really eat is fish. I have some days where I don't even eat that. My wife is happy about that because she loves, steaming broccoli and vegetables and all kind of stuff. So, I kind of go along with. I like to have a little bit of cheese on it. I gotta have some cheese on that shit. I'm like, yeah, string beans again, woman. But yeah, so I'm trying. I'm trying hard, Doc. I am. And you know me, I'm a blue collar guy. I'm a gearhead. And our habits are bad. Most of us, would smoke. I like my beer. I like having my beer. I probably drink beer a good 3 to 4 days out the week. But my eating habits have changed tremendously. I mean, I've never been much of a soda guy. I've always stayed away from soda. Drinking a lot more water than I normally would. I mean, every now and then I'll have some unsweetened because I like black tea. I like that black tea. But I don't put any sugar in it or anything like that. I drink it straight. So I'm getting there. I'm working my way there, Doc, because you come on here and have a brother like, God damn, when I get off the stream, I'm like, God damn, man. Doc scared the shit out of me, man. I gotta change my shit. I might die tomorrow. So, I am I am working on it, Doc. I am, man. I've been working on it, man. I've been trying hard, trying hard. I ain't giving up my damn cigars though. That's out. That probably ain't gonna happen. I probably ain't gonna get those up. Yeah, probably won't give those up.
Well, I hope you're making sure that you're taking precautions against COVID, if that's the case.
Oh yeah. I have to because I did get fully vaccinated, right? Uh, myself and my wife. I'm actually supposed to go take my booster. Yeah, me and my wife are supposed to go get our booster this coming Monday, as a matter of fact. So I'll be going to get the booster shot as well. So I'm doing what I can, man. I mean, I've been fortunate. I didn't come down with it. We haven't had a spate of it inside the house. So far, so good. My wife's vaccinated. I'm vaccinated. Um, My nephew is okay. He's vaccinated. The only one that isn't is my grandson. I think I got to get him vaccinated too. But he doesn't leave the house because they do virtual learning, from the house.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not like in the school, and with their friends and bringing germs back into the crib. So we've been lucky there, but I know that's not going to last. I can't hold them prisoner in this house, so I have to do something. Likewise, I can't hold my wife prisoner. The only thing I can do is hope she keep that N95 on her face when she out and about. I can't. Yeah, I can't hold everybody prisoner, man. I mean, for a while I was holding everybody prisoner, Doc. Wasn't allowing nobody to leave up out of here, boy. For a while, hell no, stay your ass in here. But I can't do that. I can't hold my family prisoner. I have to ease up. And I have been loosening the reins a little bit, man. I'm just hoping that when they're not in the house under my protection, that they're doing what they're supposed to do. And so far, so good. Because I've had other members of my family come down with COVID, man. Like 7, 8 members of my family have come down with it. My son, had it. My granddaughter had it. My brother had it. 2 of my nephews had it. So quite a few people, that I share bloodlines with have had it. So, I'm trying to be as careful as possible, Doc. I don't work. Well, I do come in contact with people, but I work with things. I don't work with people. I usually meet up with somebody, talk for a few minutes, get an invoice, take the equipment and go. All right. Take the equipment. If I'm not working on it there, I'll bring it back to the shop, work on it, and take the piece of equipment back the next day or the next few days, leave it out there on the property with the invoice and just wait for them to transfer the money into my bank account. So I do deal with people, but I don't deal with a lot of people. I deal with the people, the brothers that work for me, and they're vaccinated. Both of the brothers, my 2 full-timers, they're both vaccinated. Only thing I can hope is that they're out there being careful, because I would hate for them to bring some shit back to me, because they know they don't just work around my around my shop. They also come to my house from time to time, because I have quite a bit of equipment here that we load equipment up from here and we take it places too. So, I don't let them come in the house though. Hell no. They don't come in the crib. But they are around my house. So I hope that they are doing what they're supposed to do. I know they are vaccinated. They stay masked up. They wear their masks. So fingers crossed, man. So far, so good, Doc. So far, so good, man.
And you're doing that absolutely what you needed to do. I mean, again, obviously you can't account for people that are not in your circle. So that, yeah, I mean, you're doing exactly what you need to do in that regard. Just part of the problem is that, by the time you are at a point where you need to see a medical provider to help you manage a chronic illness, let's say something like diabetes, at that point, it's because you're so far along in this particular in the pathology, the pathophysiology of this disease process, that at that point you usually most likely need some medical intervention, whether it's some form of medication or whatever. And
Yeah.
so again, the point is that by the time you see your medical provider, you're already at a stage where you're kind of getting to that point of no return. Because
Yeah.
I do want to say this much now to Perfect Blackness comment. I mean, yeah, I mean these things help mitigate you seeing medical providers. Yeah, it does. But again, the moment if you're diabetic and you do all that, and you go back, your numbers go to normal, meaning your blood sugar levels is below 99.
Mm-hmm.
And you get you get your let's say you get your blood sugar down, because again, chronic illnesses typically come as a package deal. Okay,
Mm.
you don't just get one. You usually have multiple at the same time. Okay, so it's a package deal. So, but typically, what he said is true. But however, the moment you stop that, you will go right back to being a diabetic.
Mm. So once you get your numbers good, you got to stay where whatever got your numbers there. You got to stay with
And
it, right? Got
and that's the hard part. Maintain it. Can you maintain that lifestyle? Because this isn't just changing your behavior. This is changing your life. Period.
yeah.
And this is why these are best learned in childhood.
Oh yeah.
Okay, because again, going into your adult years with the proper idea of what health and wellness is, what good nutrition is versus what isn't. What is a health perspectives on what is a healthy weight versus what isn't a healthy weight? Because we know this is a major problem with Black folks. The idea of what is a healthy weight versus what isn't a healthy weight. Again, when you have the correct adjustment in that regard, yes, you go into adulthood not needing to do that in the first place because that's just part of who you are. And so again, a lot of this does come back to that. Most of this comes back to that family environment. Are you born to parents? Are you born to a two-parent household? Are you born to parents who they themselves are healthy? They themselves engage in healthy lifestyles. Do they eat the right thing? Because they're going to teach that to you. Not if they're not, even if they expressly don't tell this to you, but you see them doing this, and so children will mimic what the parents do. You don't have to say nothing in many respects, although you should, but in many respects, you don't have to say nothing. Children will typically mimic that behavior because most children don't really listen to parents anyway. They just see what you do and they will mimic that behavior.
That's true.
So again, much of this much of this, if not all of this, truly starts in the home. So not just having kids, but having kids when you're financially able to do so. Because again, this is one of the major problems behind why you have such unhealthy children and adolescents in this country. Because you're born into poverty, you're born into an environment where you're not getting that support. You're not able to maintain what would be considered a healthy childhood, a good childhood. The average the average black child and teenager is growing up in an environment where, you know, there's just tons of dysfunction.
Yeah.
You know,
Because all of that is part of it, right? Because you're probably not getting enough sleep. You're probably not getting enough rest. You're probably not drinking enough water. All of that. All of that is going on.
I'm glad you mentioned that. The water and the sleep thing. This is something interesting that I've observed, and pretty much I don't know a person who's a healthcare professional that has not observed this. Look at the number of black children you see that don't get a minimum 12 hours of sleep. If you're a child should be getting at least 12 hours of sleep a night. How many children have you observed they're up at 11 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock, 9, midnight,
Yeah.
1, 2 o'clock in the morning?
You hear them on the streams. Like you hear somebody on the stream, it'd be like 1 o'clock. You hear babies in the background. Be like 1 o'clock in the morning.
And I can only imagine.
But that's the parents doing, though. The parents the parents are allowing this crap.
When you're not establishing those behaviors in childhood, again, for children, it is very important for them to get that 12 hours of sleep. Why? Because this is the point at which your body repairs itself. This is the point where the brain starts to make those connections. Those neurons are making those connections. You're seeing those connections that are happening. So children are learning. So the things that they take, or excuse me, that they ingest mentally, and that what they're learning when they're asleep, when they get that 12 hours of sleep, they are effectively taking into that subconscious, and they're retaining that information. Again, this is part of the reason why, again, as this kind of somewhat pains me to say this, but black children oftentimes don't perform as well as their peers academically because they're not getting enough sleep.
Yeah, how the hell are they going to perform when they up till 1 o'clock in the morning and they finally go to bed? Got to be right back up at 6:30, because they got to catch the bus at 7:30. So, they up in the classroom, they groggy, they tired, they probably ain't had breakfast at the crib. All that's going on. They haven't gotten enough sleep. They didn't drink enough water the other day. They only got 4 hours of sleep last night. Mom broke, so she can't even afford to have stuff in the house for them to eat breakfast in the morning. and all this kind of nonsense is going on. So, I mean, of course, how is a child going to succeed in school when shit is so bad at home? I mean, things are so horrible at home, horrible diet, horrible habits. A mom, she party until 2 o'clock in the morning up in the crib, and the kids, they ain't sleep. I mean, how can this how can this manifest into something positive, man? It's just not. But shout out to my Chi-Town brother Perfect Blackness with the $10 super chat. He says, Black men, your diet and exercise is key to health. Cut out fried foods, fast food, soda, and the pork. Quit eating pig ears and pig feet, brothers. Put the damn pig ears and pig feet and pigtails down, goddammit. Limit sugar and red meat. Gym membership and use it at least 4 days a week. I appreciate that, brother Perfect Black. You know, you get this. A big coin drop on this platform. And shout out again to brother Perfect Blackness with the $2 super chat. He says, oh, and I forgot, increase your water intake. Now, I know most of us, we consider beer water, and I guess it is for the most part. But when he says water, he means, you know, just water. He's not talking about the beer and the skewer scotch, y'all. I know that's got water in it, but that's not what he's talking about. He's talking about water, just water. All right, just water. Appreciate that, brother Perfect Blackness. You get this. A big coin drop on this platform. Yeah, he means water. You know, not the water that's inside the beer, the liquor, the Hennessy, you know, the scotch, which is one of my favorites. Not that. All right. Pickled eggs. Yeah. You see those, right? When you go to like those little delis, right? They be in like this jar, you know, right next to the jar that got the pig feet in it. When you go to, because I know I see them when I go to like when I go to New York City, especially when I go to like the Bronx, I see, you know, those, they have like these pickled eggs in a jar, man, and goddamn pickled pig feet and all some kind of bullshit. Like, I can't believe people actually eat this shit. All right. Now, and I was raised by Southerners. I was raised by a Georgia Geechee. Okay. And when I was coming up as a young kid, I ate a lot of that bullshit too when I was a kid. Like, because, you know, my father, he was a Southern man. So, you know, we would kill our own chickens and stuff like that. We never had pigs, but we had chickens, ducks, we had rabbits, and we had a goat one time. But it was nothing for my father to have a fucking half a hog in the deep freezer. It was nothing for my father to have like a deer shank in the freezer, you know, in the deep freezer. So I grew up kind of eating, you know, that Southern shit. And, you know, when I got to be older, I stepped away from it, you know, because I moved out of my parents' house when I was like 17. So, you know, first and foremost, when I moved out, I could barely pay my rent, pay for my car, and keep my lights and shit on. So I couldn't even afford to buy pig's feet and shit like that. So I wasn't really eating that kind of stuff. You know, I was kind of eating other stuff. I ate a lot of rice. I ate a lot of ramen noodles, vegetables, and tuna. That's what I ate a lot of, you know, when I moved out of my parents' house. So, you know, I kind of got away from that pork shit because I was you know, I was in the Nation of Islam, and I was also a Muslim. So I got away from a lot of the meat at a very young age. But I crept back up on it. You know, once I got like in my 30s, you know, I just had to have a cheeseburger. I just had to have a steak. You know, I mean, I never I never messed with the pork. And then I met my wife, and see, my wife, she don't eat red meat at all. I mean, she doesn't eat any red meat. So when I met her, that's when things kind of changed because of the way, she cooked. She wasn't in that red meat shit. She told me right off the back, she's like, nigga, I don't eat no red meat. She said, I'll cook some for you, but I ain't eating that shit. And after a while, she just started beating me in the head, over the course of a few years. And the next thing you know, I wasn't eating it anymore either. Yeah, I wasn't eating it anymore either because, she do most of the cooking. So I think I've been fortunate because of, the people that are around me, the life I live, the woman that I married. I think I've been fortunate. That's probably why my ass ain't had a heart attack and died yet, y'all. So, I mean, I'm fortunate, man. I just had to be a fortunate person because if it was left up to me, I'd probably been dead a long time ago. But I wanna ask you this, Doc. What about the people though? What about the people? Hey, what's going on, Shorty? What's going on, big fella? Hold on a second, y'all. My little nephew that rolled up in here. What's going on, young fella? Don't hit my camera. Don't hit my camera. What's going on? Oh, okay. When you get here? Oh, shit. You just now coming in to holler at me? That's some bullshit, little fella. When you going back? Oh, your old man came here too. He ain't come holler at me. All right. Well, I try to holler at y'all before you leave, man. Let me know if your pops come before I'm done. Let me know. All right. All right. Yeah, man. Sorry, y'all. One of my little nephews was up in here, man. I ain't seen his ass in a minute. God damn it. But yeah, I think I was fortunate, man. I think I was fortunate because of the people that I've been around, the people who have influenced me. Um yeah, because prior to me, I'd probably be dead, you know. I'll probably be dead if it was just up to me. I mean, honest, because I told you, man, I know some young people, man, who had heart attacks and all this kind of shit, man.
No,
Crazy.
contrary, you know, I do realize there's a general consensus and um, thought process in the black male side of YouTube that that discourages relationships, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say this much, having, for men, you know, having, especially for a lot of, and I'll tell you just from my general experience, it's generally been women who came to me who have asked me, well, can you talk to my brother? Can you talk to my boyfriend? Can you talk to my husband? Because again, they're the only ones that can seem to get a lot of these brothers to sit down and really have some honest conversations. And so yeah, I think in many respects, despite the rhetoric you hear on social media and certainly in this sector of YouTube, that yeah, oftentimes men having women around that actually give a damn about them does help them to lead healthier, more productive and fulfilled lives. That because again, going from what I said earlier about men not being honest and black men being in denial. Yeah, it helps when they also have when they have a partner, a female partner that that is able to help them be honest. But
Yeah.
again, that is a choice that black men have to consciously make. Again, if you're not choosing the right people around you, and this includes black men and black women. Again, these things can be detrimental to your health. Yes, that is certainly true. Again, because and on the opposite end, I've met a number of black men that were with black women that, unfortunately, I would say these women were they were certainly
Feed-
accomplices in the bad health. I'll put it to you that
Yeah,
way.
feeding them death. Yeah, because I mean, when I first met my wife, right? Because I was living by myself, I had a condo, and she would come over, and she would come over, and she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna cook, for you tonight." And me, I'm living by myself, so I'm eating whatever I can. I got a few extra dollars. I'm eating McDonald's, I'm eating pizza. I'm at Arby's. I'm all these crazy places eating. And when she came, she would have like fresh vegetables, not in the can, she'd have like some fresh fish, and I'll be sitting there like, what the hell is this shit? Looking at it like it's some forest. I'm like, where the cheeseburgers at? Where the fried chicken at? And she would come in there with like, fresh vegetables and carrots and celery and all kinds of shit. And that's how she cooked, because she's like, I don't eat none of that, red meat. She told me that shit straight up. I do not eat that red meat. And as she started cooking it, and we started being together more, and eventually got married, because we were married, and I was still kind of holding on to, wanting to get me a cheeseburger from time to time. I ain't gonna lie, I was still slipping out getting me a cheeseburger. And you know, over the course of time, man, it just kind of wore on me, man. And I mean, I haven't eaten red meat, man, and I don't know how many years. I mean, my wife, she don't buy it when she goes shopping. She's not going to. She's not gonna buy no red meat. Ain't gonna be no goddamn hamburgers or steak or no shit like that. Now, a couple times out the year, like 4th of July, right? I will, throw me a steak, sometimes a deer steak, on the grill. But that's only like maybe twice a year, man. The rest of the year, I'm eating fish, man, and maybe some big chicken
I
from time to time.
mean, there's nothing wrong with that every now and then. No, no, absolutely. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. I wouldn't, I wouldn't go as far as to say that, oh, yes, if you're having a steak a couple times out of the year is gonna change your whole life. No, no, it'll send you to the hospital because of a heart attack. No, no, certainly that's not the case. But ultimately, much of what happens with Black men is very much dependent on the childhood you experience, the family you were born into, and probably even more importantly, as an adult, the women you keep in your life.
Yeah, yeah,
And so again, if you're, and this goes back to what, which has been one of my major issues for Black men, is that having a healthy concept of what is a healthy way to what versus what isn't a healthy way. Because I've seen plenty of Black men and had conversations with plenty of Black men to know that they will see a woman, truth be told, and Neros can tell me all this crap about the BMI scale, how it's not culturally appropriate, and somehow Black folks have different bodies than everyone else.
yeah.
That's bullshit. Just to
Yeah,
be
fat,
honest.
fat is fat, man. If you if
that,
you are
that,
if
that,
you are
that's just
if you are
that's just BS.
if you're a 5'4" woman and you weigh 250 pounds, I don't think it matters whether or not you're black or white, man. I mean, the fat is fat. I know we like to believe that, because what you hear people say is, oh, well, we carry it different. Bullshit. How do you carry 250 pounds when you're 5'4"? All right. You can carry it differently because you're black as opposed to being Asian or Latino or white. I mean, that's stupid. That doesn't even make any sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, are there differences in the way fat is distributed versus in men versus women? Absolutely, yes. For men,
Yeah.
most of your fat cells are in your abdomen, so that's why
Hmm.
men, when they gain weight, they tend to gain weight in their stomach,
Yeah.
in their
Yeah.
abdominal area. Versus women, is in the thighs, hips, buttocks, breasts, abdomen. So they tend to gain it more proportionally, if you will.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
nonetheless, 5'4", 200 pounds is just that 5'4", 200 pounds. It's the
Yeah. I
same.
don't.
There is no difference.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't
And
think it's gonna look
and
different
that's
because
the
you're
problem. The
black.
problem is that if you have a society that reinforces certain body types and black men reinforce that again, fundamentally, you can't complain about being unhealthy if a black man will look at a woman that's 5'4", 210, 230 pounds and say, oh well, she's nice and well proportioned. I like the way she looks. She has a
Yeah.
nice rear end, and again, and you people can say, oh well, this is the BMI is wrong. No, BMI is not wrong. It is what it is.
Yeah, well,
But
they
if you
they
reinforce
always they always say Doc, that the BMI is the white man's data, so it don't count.
the problem I have with that statement, and I'll just be real frank, is that it's certainly, for black men at least, it seems to not be a problem when you wanted to quote the white man's data. It seems to not be an issue when you wanted to support the things you believe in.
Yeah.
That seems to not be an issue. It's only an issue when it disproves something that you believe in.
Oh yeah, because
But
I've heard people cite a CDC report for something that supported their theme, if you will, and then turn around and be against that same CDC because it says something that didn't support their theme or narrative. So I mean, this is YouTube, and you're dealing with Negroes. So
it's not just you too. Even in, like I said, even when you're out here in real life, you see this dissonance that occurs, and especially for black men. And again, for black men, if you don't have a healthy idea of what is overweight versus what isn't overweight, again, that translates into the women you pick. This is part of the reason why you have so many black women that have so many high risk pregnancies. If she's already borderline overweight or overweight, a pregnancy is just going to push her into the obese category.
yeah, but
Okay.
haven't we been mentally conditioned that, because let's be honest, man, as a man, you're looking at a woman, you know whether or not her ass is fat or not. All right. It's just that you overlook it because, a lot of us, we don't have any standards. We'll be with anybody who want to be with us. I mean, that's kind of where we at, right? These repetitive cycles, right? These repetitive cycles of men being with whatever woman is willing to be with them. Not picking and choosing a particular a woman who lives a certain lifestyle or has a certain look, because you can say to yourself, you know what, I'm not dating a woman, okay, that weigh more than 120 pounds. You can say that. You can say I'm not dating a woman that weighs more than 100 pounds. I mean, you can say that if you wanted to, but brothers don't want to do that, man. Brothers don't want to do that because guess what, man? It's a standard thing. You would have to apply standards to your life, how you dated, and all that kind of stuff to make that kind of sacrifice. So, I mean, we can sit around here and talk about the BMIs for white folks all day long, but I say again, a 250-pound woman is a 250-pound woman, man. She's 5'4", she weighs 250 pounds. I don't give a shit if she's black, white, blue, green, yellow. That's a fat ass woman. All right. You can't say she's a different kind of woman or a different kind of person just because they're black. All right. I mean, because if you were to apply the BMI standards to your life, you probably would be healthier than you are right now. I'm pretty sure you would be, white man's data or not. But that white man data stuff is just a cop out anyway, Doc. I mean, we'll say anything to not face the truth, because you got the truth and then you got the quote unquote, black truth that we pull out of our hat whenever we don't want to be cornered, by the statistics and the data and the research. We mess around and get cornered by the statistics and the data and the research. Now we got to pull out this black truth, like, well, it doesn't apply to black people. That applies to white folks and Latin folks and Asian folks and also kind of foolishness. So that's just us sometimes, man. It's crazy. But shout out to my Chi-Town brother again with another super chat for $10. He says, I was raised by Southerners too. Yeah, man, being raised by them Southerners is hell, brother Perfect Black. I used to eat the pig ears and the pig feet and all that kind of nonsense. But he said pork was essential meat. But pork, hands down, is the worst meat on the planet to eat. No shit, it is. Just stay away from it, y'all. There's no healthy way to cook pork. Also true. I mean, that shit is just bad. You talking about a death. All right. I'm glad I cut that shit out of my life. I cut that shit out of my life when I was in my 20s because I was a Muslim. So I cut that pork shit out of my life a long time ago. Probably one of the other reasons why my ass is still alive. But I appreciate that, brother Perfect Black. You know you get this. A big coin drop on the platform. And shout out to my brother Perfect Black again, showing out up here tonight, boy. Showing out with that money. He says, I'm sorry this weight gain being blamed on childbirth is an excuse. My South African wife came to me at 125 pounds after our child. She was 130. I appreciate that again, brother Perfect Black. You get this. A big coin drop on the platform. Yeah, but I'm assuming, brother Perfect Black, that after y'all had y'all baby, wifey probably wasn't cooking pig snouts, pigtails, and chocolate covered Snicker bars.
No, what I'm getting at is that this is a circle. This is all of this is one big circle. And so again, because black men don't have let me correct that. Because I am with Perfect Blackness on that comment. It is an excuse, but it's also, on the other hand, black men condone it and accept it, and in fact encourage it.
Yep.
And so again, this is about, any man knows what overweight, knows what obese is. You know what fat looks like, okay?
Yeah. You know what that is.
Fat is fat. There's just no way of, there's just no way of, saying it any other way. So black men know that. But the problem is that these are all behaviors that have been molded because, again, be honest here, most black men are raised by black women. We know that most of these dudes' mamas are fat. Their grandmothers are fat. Their aunties are fat.
Yeah.
And so this is, again, this is the reason why what I've always talked about with obesity being a generational problem is because this is what you commonly see. Look at this picture you got it right here on the screen.
Yeah.
You got this, like, this the mother, that's the father, and the children. Yeah. Those children will most likely be obese like the mother. The father looks like he's a little overweight as well. Mm-hmm. And so again, these are the women that men choose, that black men choose on a regular. It's not uncommon to go outside if you go out in public, you see black men with women who are twice their size. And these men may be of a healthy weight. Not uncommon.
Yeah.
And again, look at this. Look at this stark contrast between the man and the woman here.
Yeah.
And so again, but I can tell you personally, all the women I've dated have all been under 130 pounds.
Yeah, because I'm a big guy.
I've never dated an overweight woman a day in my life.
I mean, I'm a big guy myself. I'm not a little guy, Doc.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm 6'2", I weigh 235 myself. I mean, if a woman is twice my size, that's a big old heifer right there. All right? She's twice my goddamn size. So, I've never been much for the big, gigantic, fat women. I mean, my wife is pretty tall. She's 5'7", but she's not that tall compared to me. I mean, I'm 6'2", but she's
Yeah.
a tall one, but she's not a big, fat, hefty, gigantic linebacker looking woman. Okay,
No,
I
no,
mean,
no, and no, you're absolutely correct. And what I really want to just drive home about, because I mean, I agree with Perfect Blackness in that, yeah, oftentimes for black women, they blame weight gain on childbirth, and that's simply not true. Weight gain is a direct function of how much you just eat. It is okay for women to gain between 25, 30 pounds during pregnancy. That's fine. But the problem is, if you're already eating unhealthy before you're pregnant, you're going to continue to eat that way while you're pregnant, and you're going to eat it after you're pregnant. So again, that weight becomes a lot of that weight becomes more difficult for them to lose, because again, this is just habits building onto each other. Again, this was already a process that was going on long before they ever got pregnant. And so again, these are all things that compound. These are issues that compound each other. So yes, I do agree with him in the whole that I think in many respects it is an excuse, and certainly, but the excuse gets upheld and supported by black men, and because
yeah,
many black men themselves are overweight. Again, I've never been overweight a day in my life. I was a guy, military guy, been pretty healthy, was a tennis player, cross country runner in high school and stuff like that, military guy, even in college, just never has been one for me in my where I've been overweight. That's never been me. And certainly that reflects the women that I choose. And I think again, because for me, my folks, my mother, my mother was like 5'4", like maybe 130. My
yeah,
my mother was small and stuff like that. So I never went out into the world looking for a woman that was larger than my mother.
yeah. My mother was thin too, so you know, I
So
mean, I wasn't exposed to that, but it's crazy because I look at my sisters and my sisters are fat. I mean, they're all married, but they're fat. All right, they're fat ass people, and I fuck with them about it all the time. Like y'all fat as hell, but yeah, I didn't grow up seeing a big old fat mother, so I
yeah,
never
and,
thought.
and and that's certainly a lot different from what a lot of black males are finding, the situations that many black males are finding themselves in contemporary times. That especially for a lot of guys that are under in their 20s or in their teens. Yeah, most likely you grew up. Your grandmother was fat. Your mother was fat. Your auntie was fat. Your sister
Yeah,
was probably fat. So I mean,
yeah,
again, you're having 2 to 3 generations at minimum of obese women that you're regularly exposed to. So this becomes a natural. So you get out here in the world, you're thinking, okay, yeah, a lot of guys think, oh yeah, that's how women are supposed to be. No, that's not how women are supposed to be.
yeah. We see. We think this is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
You supposed to have meat on your bone. You supposed to be like fat. And see, we done broken this weight down. And the crazy thing is, this is what's really crazy, Doc. We call it healthy. We refer to it as healthy. Like, oh yeah, man, that girl, she healthy. No, she ain't. Her ass 80 pounds overweight. How is that healthy? I mean, we literally call it healthy.
yeah,
God.
and I do want to say this much, because while I do believe there is certainly problems around black women having complicated pregnancies and issues during childbirth. A lot of what happens with black women related to difficult pregnancies, difficult childbirth, has very much to do with their relative weight. Most black women that are pregnant, they were already obese before they were pregnant. They were already overweight. And given the amount of stress that a pregnancy puts on their bodies, it just pushes whatever's going on with them into overdrive.
Yeah.
This is why it's
Yeah.
so, you see a lot of black women who have, they tend to have overweight babies. The babies are born very large babies. And that's for a very specific reason that I won't get into the physiology of that. But again, I would just say that, yeah, overweight women tend to have, when they're pregnant, they tend to have overweight babies, tend to have babies that are very large. Um, but also, too, they tend to develop gestational diabetes that, although it may or may not resolve itself after the end of the pregnancy, it oftentimes leads to type 2 diabetes. And certainly for the cases that do resolve itself after the delivery of the baby, they're at a higher risk for the development of type 2 diabetes.
Mm.
And so again, these issues are compounded, as I was saying when we first started this conversation, that these issues compound each other. So it is never just it is never just you see an overweight woman and that's it, is overweight and that's all that's going on with. No, she's overweight. She's most likely pre-diabetic. If she gets pregnant, she's most likely going to develop gestational diabetes. She might develop a condition known as preeclampsia that leads to eclampsia, which is a condition that is the hallmark of it is elevated, extremely elevated blood pressure, meaning common to see women with that condition with blood pressure in the 180s, 190s, 200 over pick a number.
Wow.
That can ultimately lead to seizures, and in severe cases, can lead to coma and multi-system organ failure. So these things are not uncommon for Black women, and for Black women specifically, Black women are honest about the weight.
Yeah.
Black men support the dishonesty because in many respects black men are supporting their mothers vicariously through these
Yeah.
women.
Yeah. You know.
And so again, all of these issues feed onto themselves. This is a cycle that continuously feeds itself because that ultimately, until Black men are honest about health issues, their own health issues, and ultimately the health issues of your children,
Yes.
the women you pick. Because again, if the woman you pick is unhealthy, what is the likelihood that the child is going to be unhealthy?
Yeah. I mean, because no one's thinking about the child's health, right? I find it hard to believe that a woman can weigh 300 pounds, like these women here on the screen. They weighing in at 3 and 4 and 5 and 600 pounds, but they're concerned about the child's weight. They're concerned about the child's diet. They're concerned about the child's the propensity for diabetes and other weight related things. I mean, I did a show a while back, man, and I was talking about feeding the failure. And I mean, these kids, man, I mean, these kids were like the size of adults. All right. These kids were the size of an adult. There was one baby, man. He was 3 or 4 years old, man. The kid weighed 95 pounds, man. He was like 4 years old. There was a girl. I think she was 12. She weighed 350 pounds. She was 12.
Really quickly, about young girls being overweight, being obese, that typically leads to endocrine dysfunction in young women. So they get early onset menses, meaning that they have their periods early. So it is more often than not, you'll see with overweight, obese young girls that they start having their menses, what is their first menses, which is referred to as a menarche, around between 8 and 10 years old, where most normally healthy girls tend to have it around 12, 13 years of age.
Yeah.
I've seen some have it around at 7.
Damn. Because
And,
they were
and again,
severely overweight, right? They were like
yeah,
morbidly obese for a
yeah,
child.
because what folks need to understand just physiologically about fat and fat cells, or clinically known as adipose tissue, it can act as its own organ in a sense where it can secrete hormones.
Mm.
And these hormones can lead to endocrine dysfunction. So for women, they're more likely to for young girls who are, they're 7, 8 years old and they're obese. Yeah, they're more likely to have an early onset menses, which predisposes them, ironically, to higher risk for breast cancer, uterine fibroids, which can ultimately lead to various types of gynecological, which can lead to gynecological cancers. So again, these things are a compounding process. None of this just happens in a vacuum. You're not just obese and that's it, as I've said many times here tonight. No, these things happen as a cumulative effect. All of these things add on to each other. It all adds up over time.
Yeah, and the whole time you're suffering from this obesity, other things are going on inside of your body as well, as these things cause you to be obese. While the obesity is happening, you got all this other stuff that's piling on, man, that's making your health bad. And people, I think people take this obesity thing rather lightly, right? Because, like you said, they thinking, "Oh, I'm just fat or whatever, or I'm not really fat." They're in denial, but they're not understanding that there's all these other underlying things that not only led to the obesity, but things you're suffering from because of the obesity. I mean, it's just crazy. But shout out to Brother Perfect Blackness with another super chat. Brother's Perfect Black showing out tonight on y'all. He said women have been given birth for millennia. It wasn't until modern times that people started associating obesity with childbirth. Stop blaming babies for your laziness and gluttony. I appreciate that, Brother Perfect Black. You get this. A big coin drop on the platform. The Black conservative Bugazi says, I have a cousin who had like 2 or 3 miscarriages and 1 stillbirth because she is obese, but she ultimately did have 1 child, but was considered a high-risk pregnancy at the same time. Yeah, the doc has been talking about that all night.
Yeah,
All night. Go ahead,
any
doc.
woman that is overweight that is pregnant is automatically considered high risk. I don't care if you 1 pound overweight or 20, you're high risk. Okay? Because what's gonna happen when you're pregnant? You're gonna gain more weight.
Yeah.
And that's
But
gonna
aren't
put
we?
more stress on
But
your
aren't
body.
we? Aren't we to blame, no doubt? Because we climbing on top of these mountains. Because you look at these women here, right? You look at some of these women that are here. I think there's more white women than black women, but there are black women on here. All right, there are quite a few black women on here, a handful of black women, and these women are weighing in at 600 pounds and 500 pounds and all this kind of stuff. And guess what? Some of these women, all right, some of these women that's sitting up here, fat as hell, sitting in the bed looking like Jabba the Hutt. Y'all know some of these women have children, right? Yeah, it's not like all these women that you see here are childless. Some of these women actually have children. So you know what that means, right? Somebody crawled on top of Mount Vesuvius, okay, and ejaculated in the volcano. Okay? That's what happened. So, I mean, part of this is our fault, brothers. Because when we climbing on chicks that look like this, they looking like this. I mean, you know she can't get out the bed. All she can do is sit here and look like this, right? Just eating. Just eating. But somehow, y'all suckers managed to go ahead and enlarge it. Because I want y'all to get the full I want y'all to get the full effect of what I'm saying here, brothers. And it won't let me make
Well,
it
again,
big as I want.
and again, this is typically the problem with obesity in Black America is that it is supported, is condoned Black men in particular condone it and support it and encourage it in many respects. Um, and this is a fundamental problem.
Yes. Yes.
Because if you all these cases right here, what you're showing my 600 pound life right here, you see these women, they have enablers, usually a
Yeah.
male,
Yeah.
usually a
Yeah.
boyfriend or even a husband in many cases. Many of these women are married, excuse me.
Yeah.
And the question needs to be asked, you know, what are you thinking? What are these black males thinking marrying women like this and then supporting this lifestyle? Their very lifestyle is killing.
Yeah. They gotta be waiting on the life insurance policy or something. I don't know. I don't.
I
Because
would I highly doubt these folks have a life insurance policy. Highly doubt it. I
because
don't know a life insurance company that probably would probably that would give them a policy, and even if they did give them a policy, it is going to cost them. You might as well sell a kidney.
yeah.
I mean, again, I mean, this is part of the problem. If you're at the societal level, you're seeing that there's this support, this undergirdle of support, and this this network that contributes to why obesity is a major problem in Black America. Not specifically for Black women, but Black men aren't exempt from this because again, in a lot of these cases, you'll see these overweight, these obese Black women, but they'll be sitting right next to a Black male. He may not be as morbidly obese as they are, but he is clearly obese himself in many respects. And even if you go out here in public, you'll oftentimes see this. A lot of Black men think, well, just because I'm 6'5", 6'6", it's okay for me to be 300 pounds. No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
okay to be 300, 400 pounds. No, it is. It isn't. Well,
Yeah.
I'm a tall
You
guy.
feel.
It
Yeah,
is.
you feel the difference, man. I had got up to like almost 255, man, and I could feel the difference because I usually hover around 220, 230. And man, I got up to like 255, man. Shit, I could feel the difference, man. I was like, man, I gotta do something. This is insane. I mean, I can't let myself get to no
You know the
250,
interesting
300
thing about
pounds.
this. You know the interesting thing about these cases right here that you're showing right here.
Yeah.
These individuals on this television show is that if they actually just truly committed to the weight loss plans, these folks will lose weight very quickly
Mm.
because their metabolism is such, their bodies have gotten so accustomed to ingesting thousands and thousands of calories a day. The moment you cut that down to like 1,500, maybe even 1,600 calories, their body will begin to immediately burn off all of that. Will begin to immediately start converting that excess, all that fat into energy.
Yeah, but if I look at
It,
somebody like
it is
this, for
it
instance,
is not uncommon to see these folks, if they actually commit to a plan. These folks can drop 100 pounds in like a month.
because once you done got to this, I mean, once you're here, it's like you're literally spilling all over the bed at this point. Your skin looks like elephant skin. It's like you can't even get up
Yeah,
at
because
this point.
these folks, even for the folks that the program is successful for them, they lose the weight. They eventually have to go get additional surgeries to move all the excess skin. They have to get a lot of other things done. And again, so being
Man.
obese is very expensive. One, just the fact that you have very few bariatric surgeons in this country that will even engage with this population because they're just such
Yeah.
a high risk population that one, the folks that do, the bariatric surgeons that do this, you should be thanking your maker. But at the same time, these surgeries are extremely expensive. First of all, you have to transport these people.
Yeah.
That in of
Yeah.
itself cost a lot of money because you can't. It's not like you're gonna be able to put a 600-pound, 700-pound person in a regular ambulance.
Yeah.
You won't be able to do that, obviously. So you have to have special equipment to one for many of these folks to get them out of their room because many of these people are not even mobile.
Yeah.
So you need special equipment. You gotta
you might have to cut.
Yeah.
You might have to cut around the edge of the door, so you got to bring in a contractor to cut off the door because they can't fit out of it. They just trapped in their room. I've seen that where people are literally trapped in their room. They've been in that room for like 2 years because they like too big to even get out of it. I've seen that.
Yeah, I mean, you would be the equivalent of a starting lineup of a basketball team to get these folks out of their home. And so again, this is, again, these are extreme examples, but we're all out here in real life. We see what we see every day. We understand that when we go out here, you go to a restaurant, you go out to eat, whatever, and you go out to eat, you see it all the time. Lots of single Black women, usually overweight, eating with each other. A bunch of overweight Black women eating out together.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I'll be with my wife will be out and they're looking at her crazy because my wife is petite and she's really small, but so she wears like an extra small. And I remember she had to go buy she had to buy some scrubs. And I remember she was buying some scrubs and she like, these are extra small. They were fitted like a medium. Because she's like, do you have anything smaller? She like, she's in the store. They're like, have anything small? Oh no, this is as small as it goes. You're really small, and it gets said to her like this is like she's the abnormal.
Yeah, the person who's at a healthy weight, something's wrong with them.
Yeah.
Okay, they're not eating enough. Not that they're eating too much. They're not eating enough.
And this is part of the problem is that again, as Black men, what have Black men as a collective supported? Again, a lot of these women out here, they're married. They have boyfriends and men that they've been with, relationships that they've been in for a number of years, for long term, and these and in many of these cases, the boyfriends or husbands, whoever they were for these women at the time, were enablers of the behavior.
Yes.
They enabled it. They supported it. And again, this goes back to the general question about are Black folks, healthy? Comparatively speaking, relatively speaking, no, we're not. Compare, especially if you did a one-on-one comparison of Black folks to white people, you would clearly see white folks live longer. Black men have the shortest lifespan between white women, white men, and Black women. Black men are having strokes at 50 years old, having life debilitating or life ending strokes and heart attacks at 50 years old versus white men who are having strokes and heart attacks in their 70s. So again, we're seeing the cumulative effects of one, just 2 to 3 generations of single motherhood, 2 to 3 generations of obesity now that has just completely, ravished Black America. Again, when I was growing up, Black women didn't look like that.
Yeah, they definitely didn't look like this here. I mean, and just so you brothers know, I don't know if y'all can see my pointer, but this isn't a giant vagina.
No, that's a thigh.
That's not a giant vagina, y'all. God damn it! I think that's why y'all brothers fuck around with the crawl up on top of this one, because y'all think that this is a giant vagina that you just have to climb through it and find the nucleus of. But this ain't a giant vagina. God damn it, Negroes! Stop laying up with them. Stop laying up with these fucking women. What's the matter with y'all?
Yeah, so I mean, ultimately, T.P.O.T, because I have to actually go.
Yeah, I know. I know I always keep you longer than you want to be here, but go ahead.
No, I do have to get going. So, but I do want to say this, that, in general, the best way to tackle these issues is certainly changing people's health behavior, changing that psychology. But ultimately, the best way to fight it is by preventing it in the first place. So, one, for Black men, choosing proper women to have children with, stop choosing overweight women, and then you having these that if the woman is overweight, she can't take care of herself. What makes you think she'll be fit to take care of your children?
Yeah, I have
If
to agree
she's
with that.
overweight, don't you think your children with her most likely would be overweight? I mean, again, these have to be issues that need to be tackled in utero and in childhood, because children who grew up in households where they learn these healthy habits from a young age grow up to become adults who engage in who have healthy habits, who have healthy lifestyle. And for the men, yeah, and for the Black men, yeah, you didn't have the best of upbringings, you didn't come from the best of backgrounds and families, yeah. The best way to do that, the best way to change that is to put yourself around folks that do that.
It is.
And again, this is why I am a proponent of for young Black men. Yeah, all young Black men should consider going to college. Why? Because it puts you in an environment where you get to see what people who grew up in healthy homes look like, what they do, how they function.
Yeah.
And so these things are all imperative for us, and certainly in the environment we found ourselves in for the last 2.5 years now, almost, that it becomes even more imperative for us to for us to be more cognizant about our health. Certainly over the last couple of years, and I understand recently there was some deaths of some men and on some well-known YouTubers, Black male
Yeah.
YouTubers.
Yeah.
And
Brother
so
David
again,
Carroll just passed. Brother
I'm sorry,
David
who is that?
Carroll.
I'm sorry.
David Carroll.
Okay,
David Carroll.
I don't know who he is, but
We nicknamed him they call him the mental juggernaut. He's an old school man. He's been around, he's
mhm.
been around the spear for a long time, man. And he talked he spoke a lot of red pill truth, man. And I'm gonna miss him because I was subscribed to his channel, and I thought he was a very insightful fellow.
Well,
So he
well, I
will
will
be
say this
missed.
much. Some of the folks that I've talked to, I think they did mention him, but my understanding was that the gentleman was in his 50s, which would coincide with what I talked about tonight. Also, what
Yeah.
you and I have talked about in previous discussions, where it is quite common for Black men to be dying in their 50s.
Mm,
I don't know exactly what caused his death or whatever, but I will say this much. From what I understand, what little I do understand about his situation, he was in his 50s when he died, and he was an avid cigar smoker, from what I understand.
yeah.
Um,
He probably smoked more cigars than I do. He
and
probably
I
smoked.
would just say, hey, these things have cumulative effects. I mean,
Yeah,
I
they
don't know
do.
exactly what was the issue with him, but I will say that the age in which he died isn't surprising.
Mm,
It really isn't. I mean, in fact, I would say it's kind of somewhat normal.
yeah.
But ultimately, for Black men, the key here is that Black men are gonna have to put themselves in environments where one, if you didn't have the healthiest upbringing, you got to put yourself in an environment where people are gonna where those upbringings, where you're around people who have came from healthy, functional homes. And unfortunately, for a lot of Black men, for most Black men that don't want to admit this, is probably going to be around some folks that probably don't look like you.
Yeah. God
And
forbid, right? I
look,
mean, they
I'm
don't.
not saying one way or the other how you live your life, but I am saying that ultimately, for you to make those changes, you're gonna have to put yourself in an environment and put yourself around people that are living the life that you want to live, having those who are people who are healthy. And again, for the young Black males out here, if you're 17, 18 years old, there is no reason why you should not be considering taking your ass to a university and getting enrolled. I don't want to hear all this stuff about debt and all this other stuff. Look, if you're a good student, somebody will pay for you. I put it to you that
Mm,
way. I went through undergrad and graduated and not a nary a debt.
Hmm.
And this
Yeah,
wasn't
well,
because of my military service. I tell you that much.
you gotta
So
have you
again,
gotta have a healthy there has to be a healthy mental element, if you want to have a healthy physical element. So, a lot of people are coming up, man, in these environments that aren't healthy mentally. They're not mentally healthy for these young folks. They're not mentally healthy for young adults. I mean, some people just come up in the most unhealthy mental situations ever. So it's like impossible for a lot of people to get right. But I think that if you're really determined, man, and even when you're a young person, like you said, a person that's a teenager, if you're really determined to get right, you will find your way out of these mentally unhealthy habits, these mentally unhealthy environments. And unfortunately, folks, you may have to separate yourself from people that you love because believe it or not, a lot of these people that you love, they're the reason why you're in this mentally unhealthy environment. They're the reason that you've been eating hot dogs and pig feet for 14 years. So you may have to separate yourself from these people that you love just so you can be better mentally and better physically. I mean, that just might be part of the deal. And it won't be easy, but I can tell you this, it'll be worth it. But go ahead, Doc, because I know you gotta go.
well, and I think you said it best. I mean, sometimes that is just the best medicine.
Yeah.
I mean, truth be told, I mean, removing yourself from unhealthy environments, removing unhealthy individuals, from your life. I mean, again, so something that I've seen over the years, long before I ever got into what I was doing now, but just even, as a young adult, it was it was the number of black males that you meet that are just kind of somewhat mentally and emotionally unstable, kind of somewhat mentally emotionally unhinged. And a lot of it is because so many black males grew up in environments and homes and around folks that in many respects may have been abusive, whether that's physically or emotionally, and that has contributed to a lot of the issues that they have now. And so the best thing any black male can ever do is remove yourself and remove those folks from your life. Remove yourself from the environment. I don't. And again, this goes back to what I was saying earlier. This is why I'm a big proponent of black males. At least going to college, because that's the perfect way for you to figure out. Well, not figure out. That's the perfect way for you to become the person you want to be. Because most people go to college and yeah, they really find out who they are, and they pursue that path. But more importantly, you're able to meet people, and a lot of people that you meet in college oftentimes become your lifelong friends.
Yeah.
And you meet those folks, and that's going to be your network. Those are going to be the people that are going to be honest with you, tell you the truth. Because again, family never is honest with you, family oftentimes support the BS and all that other stuff. But again, for black males, it is very important that you remove those dysfunctional elements from your life. So I just want to say thank you for having me, and I
Uh,
really appreciate it, Xavier.
Oh, as always, Doc, you always welcome here, man. Whenever you come here, you scare the shit out of me and probably scare the shit out of everybody in my damn chat room too. But it's a good scared. It's the scare that we need. All right. It's the scare that we need. And I always appreciate you, brother Doc Phoenix, man. And don't take too long to come back, my brother.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be quite busy.
Yeah, I know you're busy, brother. I know you're busy.
so so yeah, I will try to be back on whenever I have the opportunity. But I
Absolutely.
do want to again thank you for you know having me on and giving me, giving me the
Always,
opportunity to have this
always,
discussion
man.
with you, because I think
You my
these are
go-to,
very,
you my go-to guy when it comes to
yeah.
this stuff, man. You know that. You my go-to guy, man. You my
No,
go-to
so
guy, and
no, I
I
really appreciate
appreciate
it.
you, brother.
All right,
Thank you
thank you,
very
sir.
much, man.
Thank you.
Peace, my brother.
Have a good evening. Bye.
Peace, Doc. Yeah, y'all, the one and only Doc Phoenix in the house. That's my guy right there, man. That's my go-to guy. He comes here, he talks about COVID and all that shit. And this is the thing, right? I was telling somebody about this today, because if you got these streams about COVID, if they think that your information is incorrect, they pull the video down. So every time I spoke about COVID, I made sure I had Doc Phoenix on, right? Guess what? All of those streams are still up. So you know what that tells me? The good doc is on point with the shit that he's saying, because guess what? They haven't taken the videos down. I mean, that's my go-to guy right there, boy. I'm telling you. He's part of the reason that I actually ended up taking the shot, because I've been talking to him about it, since this whole pandemic thing began. And, he was like, yeah, X, you need to take it. You're an old nigga. Well, he didn't say that, but, he's like, yeah, man, you need to take it. You're an older fella, your age, you need to take it, X. Him, and Dr. Ali, and of course, my daughter. My daughter, oh, Dad, you need to take it. Oh, you might die. So I ended up taking it. I'm actually going to get my booster in 5 days. Yeah. 4 days, 5 days, 5 days. We going down there to get the booster shot. So that'd be my third shot of medicine, y'all. My third shot of medicine, folk. But shout out to my brother, Perfect Black, again, just showing out in this chat room tonight. He says, my wife is 2 months pregnant, nursing our 9-month-old, and in the gym twice a week with me. Yeah, I'm bragging. I hear you, brother. Brag on. Brag on him, brother. When you drop coins on this platform, you get this. Uh-oh. A big coin drop on this platform. Appreciate those super chats, brother. Perfect Black, my Chi-Town brother. I know this is called Ask the Doc, and usually I let y'all ask questions, but I had the doc. He was up here, because the doc don't really stay that long, and he definitely don't really talk that long. Always get him to stay on here longer than I know he really want to stay. I think he just does it just for me. And he talked for like 2.5 hours. So I didn't want to get him, and pressure him to answer y'all questions. Maybe next time when he comes back, I'll just try to keep it to like an hour of us chopping it up, and then let y'all ask some questions. But he probably pretty much answered y'all questions anyway, whatever questions y'all had about the subject, because he's good like that. He's very, he's very detailed in the things that he explains. So I'm pretty sure any questions y'all had, the good doc probably answered them. I'm almost positive that he probably answered them for you. But yeah, man, I mean, I'm going to be honest, man. We have to, be honest with ourselves. I mean, one thing with the women, the women, they fat and all this kind of shit, and they don't care about themselves. But I mean, when it comes to us, man, we need to do what's right, right? And I think what happens a lot of times, right? We don't want to be bothered with these folks here. These folks here. Because I think a lot of Black people, we just don't trust medical professionals like that. I think we've been taught that as well, to not really trust doctors. We don't trust the white coats. We don't trust, anything they say. We don't trust it. We don't trust it, folks. Right? We're so used to being lied to. We look at them and, we're like, they're dishonest. They just want money. They just want us to whip out that Blue Cross, Blue Shield, pay that co-pay. That's it. They don't really care. But I believe that doctors are just like anybody else, man. They're just like cops, firemen, plumbers, lawyers, carpenters, and customer service representatives. Some of them are horrible because they're horrible people. But I don't believe that all doctors are bad. I don't. I don't. In fact, the doctors that take care of me and my wife and everybody, I think they're good. They're good people, man. I think they're decent people. And I think that makes them good doctors. They haven't led us astray as of yet. So, I think we're fortunate, that we have them. We happen to get some doctors that like what they do and they're good at it. And I think when it comes to medicine, I think that's part of the thing, right? We need to find people who are good at what they do and enjoy doing it. But I say again, I think a lot of times, man, we just don't trust these people. We don't trust these medical professionals for some reason. I think they're full of crap. Just like a lot of us, we don't want to sit and talk to a psychologist or a psychotherapist or psychiatrist or a counselor there's so much stigma attached to being around medical professionals for us black people, right? I think we got a problem with actually admitting something's wrong with us. I think a lot of us are just afraid to go and get checked out, let alone, have an appointment. A lot of us are afraid of being checked out. We're so afraid that the doctor's going to say we got cancer, we got a tumor, we got a cyst, we got diabetes, we got high blood pressure, we got something. So we'd rather just not hear it and believe that we don't have it, as opposed to hearing it and being forced to believe it because we're being told by someone who does this for a living, right? We'd rather just not hear it and deny it, as opposed to hearing it and doing something about it, which is stupid. That's just stupid. Because if something is going on with you, time isn't going to make it better. It isn't going to go away, especially if you're not doing anything about it. It's just going to get worse. Isn't it? It's just going to get worse. And that's something we need to think about, man. I think we need to get over this this stigma with medical professionals, man. Whether it be physical health or mental health, man. Maybe if some of us start taking our black asses to the doctor, maybe we won't be falling dead as much. Maybe if some of us start going to see some type of therapist, whether it be a psychotherapist, psychologist, psychiatrist, any one of those tryst. Brother AM1 in the house. What's good with it, brother AM1? Good to see you here, brother. I think if we were to go to some of these people who specialize in the old noggin, getting the noggin right, maybe we might be more focused on getting the body right. Because it all comes back to the way you think, right? I find it hard to believe that you could think unhealthy and be healthy at the same time. I just don't think those two things are synchronous, right? It can't be. And we know it. Us brothers know it. We get out there, man. We know we done We eat too many goddamn cheeseburgers, too much fried chicken, too much McDonald's, Burger King, pizza. We know we eat too much of that crap. We know we do. Every time we grab a chicken leg, we know we ain't supposed to be eating that shit. We know we're not supposed to be eating it, but we do it anyway. But you heard what the doc said tonight, right? He said there is a point where there is no return, where you've gotten too far. And I think that's part of the problem, too. I think that we believe that we're already too far, so what the hell going to the doctor going to do? But guess what? If you go to the doctor, at least you can find out if you're too far. Because guess what? You might go there and be surprised. The doc may pull out his clipboard and say, hey, if you do X, Y, and Z for the next year, you might be fine. Now, of course, there is the slight chance that you go there and be like, well, you'll be dead in 3 months. I mean, there is that. I mean, you know, it's a roll of the dice, man. You know, it's a roll of the, you know, maybe if you, it's a roll of the dice. But you may go there and be surprised. You never know. All of us aren't dying on our feet, right? Only some of us are. So it's worth a shot, brothers. Go to the goddamn doctor. Go to the doctor. At least know what's going on with you, even if you don't plan on doing anything about it. Well, see, that's the thing. If you know what's going on with you, you don't do anything about it, now it's your fault. It's your fault now. And I think that's part of the fear too. Because once we know what's going on with us, it's on us now to get right. Can't blame it on nobody else. Can't blame it on the devil, God, white folks, our mama, the rain, the wind, the sun, the moon, the stars. Can't blame it on that shit now. Because see, you know what's going on. And if you know what's going on, you probably know what to do to fix it. So now it's all on you now. It's all on you now. And maybe we fear that too. Maybe we fear not being to blame other people, places, or things for our failure, for our results. Maybe that's what we fear. Like I said, you go your ass to the doctor and the doctor say, hey, look, man, you got this condition. You need to quit eating this, quit drinking that. You need to exercise more. You need to take these pills. You need to get this amount of rest. You need this kind of therapy. Because once we go to a medical professional and get diagnosed with a condition, they're probably going to give us some type of regimen, right? And if you don't follow that regimen, that's going to be your fault. And we might be afraid of that. Like I said, we might be afraid of not having something or someone else to blame. But yeah, man, Brother M1 says we have to address corrupt corporate medical and drug companies along with latrogenic death. They are clearly in bed with corrupt government agencies like the FDA and CDC. I agree, Brother AM1. But if we have a health condition and we've been given the tools to, if not cure it, at the very least beat it back and make ourselves more healthy, I think we should take those opportunities. And I think that not checking yourself, not seeing a doctor, especially when you get to be old. I mean, when you're a young person, that's kind of debatable whether or not you need to be running to the doctor all the time. But when you get to be an older guy like me, I mean, I'm in my 50s. I can't afford to not see a doctor. All right. I mean, you can't just feed me lemongrass and tell me to drink rainwater and that's it. I'm gonna be healthy, and maybe I jog a couple times a week. Nah, man, I need this motherfucker running some tests on my blood. All right, I need a motherfucker running some tests on my urine. I need a motherfucker doing some X-rays. I want to know what's going on inside of here. I want to know myself. Forget him knowing. I want to know. I want to know what's going on in here. But I get what you're saying, though, brother. I get what you're saying. And shout out again to my Chi-Town brother with another super chat. He says, Murder King and Mick Death. Yeah, man, definitely stay away from them motherfuckers. Appreciate that super chat, brother. Perfect Blackness you did. Uh-oh. A big coin drop on this platform. Yeah, man. It's crazy. Brother N1 says, high probability they will prescribe something that has known side effects that will create the need for more drugs. Yeah. I'm against that too, because you see these commercials, right, on TV where you may have, I don't know, restless leg syndrome, and they be like, side effects of this medication is failed liver, nosebleeds, headaches, heart attack, stroke, and possible death. Wait a minute, man. I just want my legs to stop shaking. I don't want diarrhea, running nose, heart failure, kidney failure, a fatty liver. I got to get all of that just to keep my legs from shaking. You went in there for restless leg syndrome. God damn it. Now you got heart failure. You got liver failure, kidney failure, bloody nose, diarrhea, stroke, heart attack. All of those are possible side effects. So you're like, you know what? I think I'll just stick with the shaky legs. Yeah, I'll just stay with those. Yeah, I'll just stay with the shaky legs, Doc. Never mind. Forget I was even here. Forget I was here, Doc. A shout out to brother AL1 with the $2 super chat. I appreciate that, brother AL1. You drop cards to this platform, you get this. I appreciate you dropping your hard-earned coins on this platform. Yeah, if I got to deal with all of that, Doc, I'll just keep the shaky legs. Yeah, I agree, man. Self-accountability is the key. But, it is the key, and we can't ignore it. We can't ignore the obviously corrupt medical and drug. Of course, I mean, there's always going to be some bad within a system. All right. There's always going to be bad within a system, man. There's no way to eliminate the bad. But I mean, let's be honest here. If we're not serious about our own health as individuals and as a collective, that's nobody's fault but our own. Now, of course, the corporate pharmaceutical companies, they all about the dollar and the cents, of course. But as far as our health collectively and individually, we got to take it seriously, man. Because if we don't care about our health, trust me, these pharmaceutical companies, they don't give a shit. They just want to treat symptoms anyway. They're not about curing anybody, man. All right? They're not about curing anyone. They're about treating your symptoms. That's it. You never even hear them talk about cures. They talk about symptom treatment. Because guess what? If you get cured, guess what? You're not really going to the doctor as much anymore. You're not buying medicine anymore. You're cured. When you used to go to the doctor every 3 months, now you go once a year. Guess what? The doctor, he's not being able to hit your damn Blue Cross Blue Shield card anymore. He gets to hit it once a year now, when he used to hit it 4 times a year. Same with the pharmaceutical companies. Is to hit your damn card 4 times a year. Now they ain't hitting them none. If they done cured you, right? Not about curing anyone. They just want to continue to treat the symptoms up to your ass dead. Just enough to keep your ass alive. That's it. It's never going to be about curing you, because curing you means cutting off the spigot of money. So there are no cures. And the cures that do come ain't going to come from the pharmaceutical companies. It's going to come from somewhere else. Where that somewhere else is, I don't know. But they're about treating the symptoms, man. They're not about curing your ass. I mean, that's just what it is. But yeah, man, I think we're gonna, yeah, exactly, Brother Am. Have no interest in curing your black ass. Why would they cut their own throat? You know? Brother M1 says the last 21 months had made it clear that the best doctors to listen to are the ones who acknowledge the corruption of the medical industry and have left it. Probably. Or the ones that have been kicked out. The ones that have been kicked out of this shit. But we're going to be talking, because, this week, we're talking about the health. Tonight we were asking the question, how healthy are we? Tomorrow, we're going to be doing a what about. And y'all know the what abouts are about. What are they about? They are about telling the secrets of us black folks. And tomorrow we're going to get into some of the medical secrets. We're going to talk about the youth. Because tomorrow we ask the question, what about the health of the youth? And when I talk about the youth, I'm not talking about people who are 17, 18, 19, 20. No. I'm talking about those little tykes we talked about tonight. We spoke about tonight. Right? We're going to talk about the reluctance of people to take these children to the doctor. We're also going to talk about the mistrust of black folk when it comes to doctors, and how that may be linked to black folks not taking their kids to the doctor as much as they should. And also we're going to talk about how black children have a tendency to get less on the treatment scale when it comes to doctors compared to other children of other races. Yeah. So we're going to be talking about that tomorrow. We're going to be telling the secrets tomorrow. Y'all notice how we do it on the What Abouts. We tell the secrets. And tomorrow we're talking about what about the health of the youth. So make sure you're here tomorrow, 9:30 p.m. Eastern time, right here on the T.P.O.T YouTube page. You Negroes know. All right? What we got going on tomorrow. Yeah, so we're going to go ahead, man. We're going to wrap it up. I appreciate everybody coming out tonight, man. As always, shout out to my brother, man, the good Doc Phoenix, man, my go-to medical guy. I got a lot of respect for Doc Phoenix, and those of you who know him, I'm sure y'all do too. The good Doc is pretty spot on with all the stuff, man. I mean, I'm pretty confident in things that he says. That's why I always have him up on here. He hasn't let me down yet. He's part of the reason why I took the damn shot. So shout out, man, to the good Doc Phoenix, man, as always, man. Good dude, man, good brother. And shout out to y'all, man. I appreciate y'all, man, for hanging out with us tonight, as always. I appreciate, all the super chats and cash chats, but most importantly, man, I appreciate your participation more than anything else. You could have spent your Wednesday night anywhere, man, and you decided to spend it here. It is appreciated. I don't take you good folks lightly, man. I never have, and I never will. You got my word on that. I mean, stuff like this, man, we got to talk about, and I like talking about it with professionals. I mean, I could have came up here and just ran my mouth all night, okay? But I'm not a professional when it comes to this medical stuff. And I don't pretend to be, man. I know what I know. So when things need to be discussed that I don't know, I'm going to bring in the professional, all right? I'm going to bring in somebody who does this for a living, has been schooled in this stuff, and know what they're talking about. So when I think medical, I think the good doctor, Dr. Phoenix. He's the first person that comes to mind when I think about doing one of these shows. So hopefully y'all got something out of it, man, and hopefully y'all learned something from it. All right? All right. So with that, I will leave you good folks with 3 words. Like I always do.
Open your mind.
The good doctor is in the house. The good doctor.
Open your mind.
In the house. The good doctor in the house.
Open your mind.
Only from T.P.O.T. Media. Open your mind.